It's time for Mac Break Weekly. Alex is out, but Zach Hall from 9 to 5 Mac joins Jason Snell, Andy Ihnatko, and me to talk about Apple's classical music app. Was Tim Cook forced to release the mixed reality headset? And why so many Apple executives are leaving. It's all coming up next on Mac Break Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Mac Break Weekly, episode 861, recorded Tuesday, March 14th, 2023. The number before 2. This episode of Mac Break Weekly is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Using the internet without ExpressVPN is like taking a call on a train or a bus on speaker for everyone to hear. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/MacBreak and get an extra 3 months free on a 1-year package. And by ZipRecruiter. One of the biggest 2023 hiring challenges is standing out to top talent. Break through the clutter and attract the most qualified candidates for your team with ZipRecruiter's matching technology. Try it free at ziprecruiter.com/MacBreak. And by ZocDoc. When you're not feeling your best and just trying to hold it together, finding great care shouldn't take up all your energy. Go to ZocDoc.com/MacBreak and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then find and book a top-rated doctor today. Many available within 24 hours. It's time for Mac Break Weekly, the show we cover the latest Apple news. Jason Snell is here. He has written a lovely piece in Macworld we'll talk about the M3 processor. He is also on the Mastodon. I'm happy to see at zeppelin.flights/@jsnell.
Yes, indeed. The Mastodon. I have my own, rigid airship that contains multitudes. Yes.
It's really a little bit of a, what do they call that? Is it a humble brag to have your own instance? Like, oh yeah, I'm on my own instance.
Yeah. I'm too cool for school, right? Too cool for Mastodon.social. I got my own.
Yeah, you got the real
I
deal.
decided I was going to be there for a while, and I had actually set that up back in 2018 and then taken it down. But in Mastodon, in the Fediverse, it just sort of like stayed as if it existed. It was sort of a ghost Zeppelin.
Yeah.
So I just brought it back and figured I might as well park all of my professional stuff.
We launched Twit Social in 2019. It was me and another guy for 3 years. It was cool, and it was like €5 a month to Masto host, who hosts it. And in fact, it was so little that I forgot I was paying for it. I thought it was free. And then because it was coming out of PayPal and I never even noticed. And then all of a sudden November 2022 happened, and wow, it got quite quiet.
There's more people now.
Now there's more people. Andy Ihnatko's also with us, GBH in Boston, Ihnatko.com.
Yeah, I'm on America Online's Mastodon instance. Is that bad?
I think it's great.
There's actually some.
It's cost me $30 a month.
It's retro now.
There's some real concern in the Fediverse, as we call it, because Facebook has announced that it's going to, in some way, we're not sure how, integrate. And there are people in Mastodon who immediately said, every administrator should block all Facebook domains. If they decide to join, block them.
Because that's what the open free internet is all about.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly. Hey, Mr. Alex Lindsay is on assignment, which means he's probably at the White House or something, but knowing Alex. But hey, we're glad to say Zach Hall is here from the estimable 9 to 5 Mac and the 9 to 5 Mac Happy Hour podcast. And I'm glad you're here, Zach, because you're a musician. Clearly, you play the classical guitar.
Play the classical guitar.
Yeah.
Have a lot of metadata involved with that.
Opus 43 and G minor, Zach Hall. Because we were just talking about it last week. I was bitching and moaning that Apple...
Last week, Leo, every week.
Every week?
Every week
Really,
since they killed Primephonic.
Andy
you have
and I,
been there.
We were the two Primephonic users, and we were both...
Is Apple Music Classical up yet.com
To be
owned by
fair,
Leo Laporte.
To be fair, Jason, like Apple was the parents who said that, well, we're not going to open our Christmas presents on December 24th. We're going to wait till December 25th. And then we couldn't open them in January. Then we couldn't open them in February. They were promising us something special and not giving it to us.
True.
Yes,
so
we were a little
Apple
bit
has
salty
announced right after a show last week they are going to finally launch Apple Music Classical, a standalone app available March 28th. Although now what I do every day is I wake up and I open the app to see if I have it, because it could come earlier. I mean, you're able to download it as like a pre-thing from the App Store, but nothing has happened yet. 5 million unique tracks, thousands of exclusive albums. And everybody asks, well, why do you already have all these pieces in Apple Music, don't you? And I don't know, actually. It sounds like maybe there'll be more stuff than is in Apple Music, but the real issue is, as you said, Zach, metadata. Because and you said, I think last week, Andy, the best thing is going to be that you could say, I want to hear Bach's B minor mass, and then you can see 20 different versions of it by different orchestras, and
because sometimes with classical, sometimes it's I just want to hear the B minor mass, or why do you want to hear this recording? Is it because it's a Bach recording? Is it because it's this orchestra? Is it because it's this conductor? Is this because it's this soloist? And it becomes really, really hard to really drill down on what you like, or for the algorithm to figure out what is it that you like about this. I'm still in the Spotify hole, where the fact that I listen to so much classical and opera, it keeps giving me like, hey, suggested albums. Here's a compilation of sweet sounds of the 60s.
I get a lot of that.
music to play paddleball by.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
they decided you're my age, Andy. This is now, unfortunately, Apple in the App Store preview, and you can see you could pre-order it, doesn't have an iPad screenshot as far as I can tell. That worries a little.
It seems like it's coming out for iPhone. It's not on the Mac, and I can see it on my iPad too. So I suspect it'll run, but I think it's going to run in like the little iPhone window thing instead of full.
How hard could
Apple.
this be, Apple? You had 18 months. You're almost a $3 trillion company. You have billions in the bank, and you can't get an iPad version of this.
Oh, also remember that when they bought the company to get classical, that company had an Android app, but they're saying, oh, we're going to be supporting Android real
someday.
Soon.
Yeah,
I mean, they could also have not. Like it is, at least they said they will support it, and quite frankly, they haven't said that about the iPad or the Mac. So I would take it as a win, Andy. It's better than radio silence.
I'm not complaining. No, I'm not complaining. And one of the things that I liked about Prime Phonics, they had some really excellent, believe it or not, podcasts. They had excellent shows.
Yeah.
And I don't see those in this, but this is just screenshots that Apple has put up. So who knows what Apple will end up doing.
Yeah. I mean, one of the great things about Apple Music when they launched was that they did have real human beings like curating and making recommendations and having their own shows. Just like one of the great things about the App Store is that they have editors who are not just going by metrics. They're simply saying, hey, here are 8 really great apps that take advantage of Apple Pencil. I think a lot of us have worked with people who are now working at Apple and doing those editor things, whereas they used to do them on websites. So I'm just hoping that they put the same amount of energy into this as they would any project that they actually take seriously. I hope it's not something where we've done it. We acquired it because we needed every advantage we could possibly get against Spotify. But, oh gosh, we had to take some people off this project because of other priorities at the company. That would kind of stink if it kind of died on the vine. Even the desktop version of Apple Music is, I mean, it's a great Swift project if you're at summer school learning how to program for Mac, but it's not really a great app.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we'll find out maybe before March 28th, but that's the official release date. And Zach, you didn't weigh in on this in any form or fashion.
I have a few things in mind. Yes.
Okay.
So, one, no iPad app. You can do the iPhone app on the iPad.
Yeah.
It's nicer than ever with Stage Manager, the incredible multitasking feature. You get your background. you can run it next to other apps, even though it's an iPhone app. So you could have like classical next to Instagram, next to, you name it, and it'll all work together. So maybe they're just giving up on iPad apps and this is the future. That would be bad. The other thing is
somehow I doubt that, but okay. Yeah.
A few other things. I know that a lot of the employees that were at Primephonic are on the music team or on the data team at Apple.
That's actually good insight. So they kept the team and they're still there. That's a good sign. I
Right.
think. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say like 75 or 80% of the people that were there are still there. I did a LinkedIn exploration one time and saw that. And then last thing is with Primephonic, they would pay for the song based on minute played instead of stream played, because you can have a 3-minute pop song and you
Right.
pay for the play, but you have a 30-minute or 3-hour classical performance, and so you pay for the minute. That was a big part of why Primephonic existed in the first place, was to make that sustainable. I guess with it being Apple, they don't have that problem, but I am curious how that, if that changed or not with Apple, because you'd imagine, even though Apple can support the classical service on its own, subsidize it with Apple Music and the iPhone, then you'd still want the artist behind the performance.
Well, I'll be watching Herbert von Karajan's Twitter account to see if he says anything about this.
See if he has a jewelry upgrade. Starting to wear a crown or something. But I mean that's an excellent point, because one of the things I do like about Apple Music is that they pay creators a lot more than like YouTube pays creators garbage.
Right.
Amazon too, but it's nice to know that of the not that streaming is helping to make up for the loss of album sales, but you like to think that they're being compensated as much as possible.
Yeah. There's more to this story than meets the eye. Thank you, Zach, for filling us in on that. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, and for those who are not like super into classical music, Jesse Char, who has worked at Apple and is a cellist and had a design company, like she did a great Twitter thread that is explains it in short detail of, you know, the challenges compared to the music app, which is designed for pop music. So, you know, her example is like you open the Nutcracker and like literally you can't tell what the tracks are because the track names are so long that you can only see the beginning of it, and you can't really see like there's like when it was composed and there's also when it was recorded, and like the fundamental thing, like as Zach said, metadata, like it's ironically, it's like the App Store, right? The App Store is a pop music service because they just took it from iTunes. And when you apply a pop music sensibility to other data sets, it doesn't always map very well. And classical is just a great example where that interface doesn't work for classical music. And so that's the reason there's a separate app. And that's the reason why people like Leo and Andy and Zach are excited about this service, because, I mean, I don't know. I know I know how cranky Beethoven was, and, you know, I know a little bit. I've seen Amadeus. Anyway,
he loved and lost, Jason. All right.
Yes, he did. He was just a very, very grumpy guy. And I recalled yesterday that when I was taking piano lessons as a kid, I would get little plastic busts of classical composers as rewards for. So it's like, oh, you got Chopin this time. I'm like, oh, that's so great. So they're like Funko Pops, except, you know, classical music.
That's hysterical.
So anyway, there are lots of reasons why this makes sense, and it being its own thing, and that's why people like Leo and Andy and Zach are excited about it.
Yeah, there's a reason. Sorry, Ludwig, sorry.
Why so angry, Beethoven?
Why so angry?
Well,
you made a good point. Like, I was getting Rock Me Amadeus every time I asked for Mozart. That's not what you want, right?
That's what I want. I mean,
might
Falco.
be what you want.
Falco is
not
a treasure.
bad song.
Austria's treasure. You know, that's the first non-English song to hit #1 in the U.S. was
Rock Me Amadeus.
Was Rock Me Amadeus. Before La Bamba and Despacito, there came Rock Me Amadeus.
He was a wall breaker, a ceiling.
The Falco. Oh yeah,
Falco,
he was
that old Falco fella.
He
Jessie
paved the way
Char
for
also
Taco.
said she hates the icon, so maybe they'll improve
I love
the
the
icon.
icon.
She says that's a bad clef. She says that's a terrible treble clef. It's awful, laughably bad.
I don't like white background icons, and this has got a color background, and there's even some difference in the
strokes.
level of intensity. Exactly.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
You can tell it's got depth to
calligraphy.
it. So
Yeah.
on an Apple scale of icons, I think this is wonderful.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm no magician, so I don't know. And Jessie doesn't like it, so that's, you know. She says, I'm not one to jump on the icon criticizing bandwagon, but this is actually like church choir clip art. Bad and hilarious that it got approved. Okay, fine.
I love that I love that everybody is a legitimate expert and can give you informed opinions on something that you just absolutely did not notice.
Yeah.
And I'm not being sarcastic at all. I'm saying that there are people who absolutely know what they're talking about. This is their area of expertise. And then you suddenly, well, damn it, I didn't think that was horrible, but now I kind of smell sulfur every time.
She tweets, I'm a classically trained cellist, a composer, former Apple employee, and CEO of a design studio that specialized in icon and UI design. So, I think she has standing on this complaint.
It's thick in areas it shouldn't be, and the actual icon itself is pretty elegant. So they took some liberty.
This is a good sick burn. She says, it's the musical equivalent of curls. The font curls. It's technically legible. It just looks extremely goofy. It's just it's the wrong message to be sending. So
Curl Sans, I think, is what we're looking at.
Curl Sans, yeah. Is there a Curls Sans? I don't know how you would do that. Curl's all about the serifs. All right, enough of that. That's a silly story, a light story, but I just wanted to take a little victory lap. Andy and I are very happy about that.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Can't wait. And maybe more people will listen to classical music because of it. I don't know. And the Discord chat is telling us that some people like that treble clef.
Sure.
Here comes treble, in the words of that is what Modern Family Guy.
Mm-hmm. Modern Family.
Yeah. I just did a Jeopardy thing out of that. Modern Family Guy. All right, moving on to the real story, the big story, which I am very interested to get your opinions on this. Who was it had the story initially that it was Tim Cook's decision to override the engineers and the design team and release the Apple VR goggles this year. Jeff Williams, the COO, apparently said, no, we want it out. The design team and the engineers said, it's not ready. It's not ready. Let's wait till we have the real deal, the AR thing. And then Tim weighs in and says, we're gonna release it. Is that, you think, an accurate assessment of what really happened? This I'll give credit to the Financial Times, who had this.
Oh yeah,
story.
It was the FT.
Yeah.
So what the FT says is that the design team told the executives that they shouldn't release a mixed reality product at all and wait for the lightweight imaginary glasses that don't exist and won't exist for many years and only ship that. So that was apparently their story. This is a real, again, there are degrees here, but that one just blew me away because that was like, come on, they're not living in reality. Like they're literally just no, let's just wait and not ship anything in this category for many years. And then we'll invent something new and then we'll ship that and it'll be great. Whereas I think that Apple is very much on the tack that they have to start shipping something and there is a bar that they have to clear, but you have to ship something that's viable that you can also start to iterate on in public, right? You can't just keep it on the inside. It's going to be flawed. It's going to have issues and they're going to get that feedback and then they're going to work on it out in the open, but you got to ship something at some point. So the idea, like, I would take it with more credence if it was like, look, it's been delayed several times. Clearly there have been lots of times where they've gotten to the point of like, should we ship this? And they're like, no. And Mark Gurman keeps on reporting like, well, they wanted to do it last year, but they're pushing it back. Well, they wanted to do it this fall, but it's going to be the spring. Well, they wanted to do it in the spring, but now it's going to be the summer at WWDC. So that process is happening. But the fact that there are apparently former designers who are now belly aching to the Financial Times that they shouldn't ship that product at all and should just sit on the sidelines, which strikes me as just being, I mean, that's the kind of thing if you're the CEO or the COO, you say, no.
Let me read to you a little bit from the FT story. Patrick McGee and Tim Bradshaw writing. Apple's operation team wanted to ship a version 1 product, a ski goggle-like headset that will allow users to watch immersive 3D video, perform interactive workouts, or chat with realistic avatars through a revamped FaceTime. But Apple's famed industrial design team had cautioned patience wanting to delay until a more lightweight version of AR glasses became technically feasible. Most in the tech industry expect that to take several more years. In deciding to press ahead with a debut this year, Cook has sided with operations chief Jeff Williams, according to two people familiar with Apple's decision-making, and overruled the early objections from Apple designers to wait for the tech to catch up with their vision. Does this comport with what you're hearing, Zach?
There's a few things that this made me think about. One is the narrative that is being pushed, that operations is overpowering design, and that do you really want your operations team designing products when you've got a design team for that, especially at Apple? I think something that's important here is that the operations team, you can call it that, but it's really the executive level. It's Tim Cook, who comes from operations, and Jeff Williams, who is operations, but he's also a lot of other things. And so it's just the top executives making the decisions, not just letting the design teams dictate what's going to happen. Another thing is the article framed this as the first thing from Tim Cook, omitting AirPods, saying that the Apple Watch was a Steve Jobs product. I'm not sure to what extent history says about that. I'm curious what you think about that, Snell. And then the other thing, to make a point that Apple did not replace Johnny Ive as the chief design officer, sort of to say that Apple's they don't care about design as much because they didn't replace that role that was in reality made up to satisfy him for a few years. And then he was the first, he was the last. They could have mentioned that the actual hardware lead for design is leaving with no replacement, but they didn't mention that. So I like both of the reporters. I respect both of them. I think there's a story here, but there were some things that if you just know Apple, you're pretty good about it, then you'd see as kind of red flags about the general story.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the thrust of what they, the real thrust of it wasn't so much that they're going to release these headsets, which we kind of knew, but that design, which had previously really ruled the roost at Apple, even before Johnny was made the chief design officer. Johnny Ive and Steve Jobs certainly were the two power tent poles at Apple. But their point is now Evans Hankey is leaving, and they haven't replaced the chief design officer, as you say, a new position, so not a surprise. It sounds like they're saying, the FT's saying, yeah, this is a big power shift at Apple, but you don't think that's the case.
I mean, this is the same narrative as Trip Mickle's book Apple After Steve, and I strongly suspect a lot of the same sources involved, which is sources who are people who used to work in that group with Johnny Ive and aren't at Apple anymore, and they want to paint a narrative that everything they did was in the right, and now Apple has gone in the wrong direction because nobody's listening to the designers. And Zach makes an excellent point. Like, wait a second, the Apple Watch, when it was released, was being accused of not having that Steve Jobs magic because it was such a Tim Cook product, and now suddenly it's a Steve Jobs product and a Johnny Ive product, and Tim Cook doesn't get any credit for that. He will give him AirPods maybe, but like I don't know. I mean, everybody's gonna have their own bias when they're relying on these sources, and I get the same smell from this story as I did from the Trip Mickle book, which is that he got a lot of people who have left the company from Johnny Ive's design group to talk, and there weren't necessarily, the other side of it would be people who maybe are still at Apple and aren't going to talk to him about it. And so you end up with this narrative that is a really easy, fun, broad narrative, which is Apple used to be a design-focused company, and now they're run by engineers or they're run by bean counters. And while there is, I think, at its core, some truth to that, I think that's, a lot of these stories just completely blow it out of the water and overplay it. And that's why that moment where they're like, we don't even think they should ship a VR product and they should just wait for that AR product. That, again, to be clear, that technology has to be invented. It doesn't exist to make a spectacular thing that you can wear like a pair of glasses that does augmented reality at a very high level. Like, that product doesn't exist. It's not going to exist for years. People have to invent and advance the tech to get there, right? And so for them to say, let's just sit on the sidelines and not ship a product, like, it's a bizarre report, honestly. And it's the kind of thing you get from, I think, a bunch of people who have sour grapes and have left Apple and think that, as most people do when they leave a job, it hasn't been as good since I left. It just hasn't.
Although it does bring up some interesting questions, though. The Apple Watch and the iPhone are two interesting examples of products that you could argue weren't ready, but they shipped anyway because the moment was right. Famously, I think the Apple Watch, they just had to put it out there. They could design a really cool looking fashion watch. They decided that, hey, let's demo it by telling people that you could not only open up your garage door from your watch, but you could watch live video of your garage door opening. That was the big demo that was going to get people to fork over $12,000 for a solid gold gadget watch. It took a while for them to realize that, okay, this is a fitness watch that also has really good phone features, but we're going to sell this as a fitness device. The iPhone also, a 2G phone that doesn't do cut and paste, doesn't have apps, in a world in which every phone, the best phones have 3G, all of them could do cut and paste, all of them had app stores or ways to sideload apps on them. There's an interesting metric here where Apple's also here has a product where there is not even something to copy from. There is no successful version of this product, unless you want to count game headsets, which you could definitely do. But I don't think Apple is interested in creating a $3,000 product that's just for watching movies and playing really cool lightsaber games on. And so there is the argument to be made of, at what point do we say that the time is not right? The ground has not been. We need to spend a couple of years preparing the ground to plant this seed before we can actually do anything with it. But I do think that it's a good idea to create low expectations. Say if they announce this by saying that this is not a consumer product yet, this is just for developers and our partners who are going to need some time to wrap their head around the idea of virtual reality apps, so to speak, so that you can hit the ground running, get a great piece of hardware. And if you're an enterprise, and you want to create custom apps specifically for your business, we would love for you to use our $3,000 goggles to do that. They're gonna have to start sometime. So long as they don't say as long as Tim doesn't come out and say, we're here to change the world, we think that the intersection of humanity is no. You're creating a $3,000 thing for people who can afford a $3,000 thing and want to develop the first generation of things for the $3,000 thing. That would be a success.
John Gruber on Airing Fireball also points out that the Financial Times left out the 1,000 person strong AR VR team under Mike Rockwell, who might have an opinion on this, and Greg Joswiak's product marketing division. And so the real question, in my mind, yeah, I understand these designers, who don't work there anymore, have an opinion. Maybe they would say, I'll defend them. Maybe they would say, well, we don't want Apple to release a dead-on arrival product, especially at $3,000. And I have to say that is a legitimate concern, isn't it? I mean, VR is not exactly taking the world by storm.
It is. Well, I mean, it is a legitimate concern. I think I would say that from the designer's perspective, obviously there's the conversation about the VR product, and then there's the conversation about the AR product. And the FT's report says that they specifically said, just don't make a VR product. Which is, I mean, that's a take, right? But I think if you're any other part of Apple, the way that they've viewed this category is that if they believe that an AR product is going to be the future, they have to start iterating on this technology and get it going, and that they think that there's enough in the VR product to make it viable. Now, again, Andy made some great points,
secret, right? Normally, Apple, I mean, the car,
to a point,
they're going to go, they're going to get to as far along as they can without releasing a dud product. I mean, they don't want a Google Glass on their hands.
They don't, right? But I think they may look at AR and say that is where we want to go, and we can't just start with AR. We have to start now, and we have to start inventing this stuff and getting the software to be better. I think Andy made the great point. Like, is it going to be there? I think their greatest risk right now is that they've got a product that isn't going to appeal to almost anybody, and if it's going to cost what it does, and that they're going to have to spin that in a certain way, and I'm not sure Apple's ego will allow them to spin it in that way, and then that's when you say this will change the world, and we are going to market it to people, and then they're going to get the sticker shock of the actual price.
And there's
I think that's all true.
There's a risk that people go, well, that's Apple. There's their entry. And there's no chance for the AR. And I think, Andy, you and I, as we've talked about these AR spectacles, are very much in favor of them. But that's a very different thing from VR goggles or
and far away.
And
far away.
Not even the technology doesn't even exist yet.
Yeah. As Jason said, the technology for combining your actual vision with an overlaid graphic. then there is not even yet a component maker who can deliver that. The best that we can get is that you can get a little Google Glass sort of thing where you can get an overlay of monochrome, basically text, which is not useless. That could be a very, very useful thing to put into a pair of glasses. But even then, you have the problem of, okay, now it's going to be great so long as you're only inside. What if you go outside on a cloudy day in late afternoon where there's very little sunlight outside and suddenly nothing works? And even if it works perfectly, have fun with your 100-degree field of vision, where as soon as you turn your head, like, it has to keep up with you because there is no peripheral vision whatsoever. This is nowhere near a solved problem. So this is one of the reasons why I'm kind of encouraged by Apple saying, let's make what we can make now. Let's not plan for something that we don't even know can exist for another 5 years yet. You can do virtual reality because you can have a fully immersive goggle experience. I think that the only thing that will constitute a failure for me with Apple is if they did manage to have a successful product, but everybody agrees the only reason why they sold out even their short million unit run was because it had an Apple logo on it. It had a certain cachet about it. There were a lot of people who wanted to be the first to have these things, but when push come to shove, just like Google Glass, after initial few weeks of excitement, it winds up being in a drawer. That would be a massive failure for Apple.
Gruber points out that the Financial Times chief argument, which is that Tim Cook is forcing this to seal his legacy, is actually completely wrong. Tim Cook's legacy is intact, and actually, this is a risky thing to do. This could be the Newton to Capper to his tenure as CEO, not the iPhone. So, Zach, are you going to spend $3,000 and run out and buy a lovely Apple mixed reality? They're calling it mixed reality, by the way, but let's just face it, it's VR. Yeah.
I hope someone spends the $3,000 on my behalf.
You're not dying for one, huh? Do you do any VR at all?
I've done PlayStation VR, and that's the extent of my VR. I guess unless Google Cardboard, I've done that as well, which is more economical.
There you go. VR.
That was a great idea.
Yeah. Which Google killed.
The bottom line on the FT article for me is that at least Johnny Ive or people close to him that aren't there anymore don't want their name on the product. They don't want to take credit for it. They're not. We understand that. And then there's something.
I'd rather take credit for the thinnest, lightest keyboard Apple's ever made, the fabulous Butterfly keyboard. That's my legacy, says Johnny Ive. I mean, there's no question that the design team has taken some bad turns under Johnny Ive, right? I mean,
as a static object, that is a beautiful keyboard. As something you simply regard from a distance, that is an achievement.
Or use in a completely spotless, clean white room.
In a white room. Yes, where Johnny lives.
Works great.
Yeah. I have, by the way, thanks to Mark Ford, who sent me even more of Johnny's red noses. So, John, this is Johnny. You should never have released the red nose. It wasn't ready.
I'm telling you, that aluminium is really rough on the skin. You gotta.
This is also
powder.
There's definitely a you're reaping what you sow kind of thing happening here, which is when Steve Jobs died, Apple was really, really concerned about maintaining a view from the outside of stability and that Apple would continue to be great. And Johnny, Johnny was burned out. We all know that. We've read all the books about it. Johnny basically was done, and they paid him a lot of money and gave him an exalted title and put him in charge of anything that he wanted to, cars, software, you name it, because for a while after Steve Jobs died, they wanted to project stability. And then after that time passed, they were able to disengage from Johnny Ive and let him go on his way. And, it's the long goodbye, right? Where it was first he's a consultant. He's not doing much consulting and they're not listening to him, but we're paying him and we'll say he's there. And then finally he goes away. So like, this is the reaping of that, which is now you've got people on Johnny's team and the design team who are like, aha, you didn't listen to us. But look, I think it was a good idea for Apple in that period to build him up in order to reassure people on the outside. But now they have to pay for it when the designers throw rocks at them.
And I have to, as long as we're excoriating the Financial Times, I really have to take umbrage, if you will, with this egregious chart. Jason, you could have added some colors to this chart. This thing is horrific. First of all, 3 shades of blue. what the hell? And then I don't even understand what this is. It's just all mishmashed together. Its gist is that subsequent versions of iPhone, Apple Watch, and iPod have done better than the original versions. But it's hard to tell. You really have to.
They get better as they go. I see it.
Yeah,
and I have a point. I have a point on that too, which is if you look at that chart, the newer iPhone does better than the earlier ones. That's awesome. On the headset, it won't be that way because with the phone, last year's gets replaced with this year's, which is about the same price, and it does even more. With the headset, we're not going to see a $3,000 version this year, and then next year see an even better $3,000 version. We're going to see a more affordable version than the $3,000 one that doesn't do quite as much. Just make some decisions that makes it not as expensive. But we're not going to see headset 2 replace headset 1.
That's a good point. Yeah,
in the same way that we do with watch and iPhone.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So there won't be that growth. It'll just
probably
be one
sell
bar
a lot more
and
of
then
them.
Nothing.
Right.
Because it'll be cheaper. But yeah.
You know what, Zach, I'm with you. If somebody else buys me that headset,
yes.
But I, because I have to figure out, because nobody's going to buy it for me. I have to really figure out whether I should buy a $3,000 VR headset. I foolishly last year bought the Oculus Pro that Facebook put out for $1,600. And I felt like I was wearing the sucker hat the whole time. I think I might not buy this, but we have to. Jason, you'll get a review unit. That'll solve it.
That might, listen, like with Zach, I'm like, oh yeah,
yeah.
Come on, review unit, bring it in, baby, because otherwise I got to pay for it out of my own pocket.
Yeah, because
I'll take any color.
We have to talk
You take the
about
yellow one.
You'll take the yellow
yeah.
one? All right.
Yeah. Well, and the truth is, if you're in this business, like the truth is, if that's the only way I can get one and write about it, I will spend $3,000 on. But again, I'm not a good model because this is what I do professionally. I'm not don't be like me, kids.
I think developers, I really wonder, I don't know if developers are going to be so all in on this concept that they're going to spend $3,000 to develop something for a
tiny audience.
Yeah.
For a tiny audience of people who would buy the $3,000 product. That's the thing. Developers, honestly, a developer will spend $3,000 on an expensive developer kit of a brand new Apple platform that they think has potential. The problem is, what's the potential market? And that's where it comes back to Andy, saying, oh, with a $3,000, we're changing the world. And the developers are like, guys, you got to make a version that sells millions and millions of units. Otherwise, why am I putting in my time here? And that's the real question, is how they frame that. Because all the reports say that, in a year, there'll be a cheaper version, but that's a long time to wait if you're a developer waiting for revenue to come in from this platform.
Andy, do you want to be our Jim Cramer and say it's a no buy?
I don't know. Is it guaranteed to be the wrong advice? Because that's worth
Jim Cramer, the guy who's telling you to buy Silicon Valley Bank.
Silicon Valley Bank
2 weeks ago.
Oh boy, opportunity. Yeah, it's again. I think that a lot of people who are really motivated to have it are going to have a good time with it, because there are some of I'm always here to defend Google Glass, because I always liked the way that Google proposed it. They said that this is an experiment where not only that, but something very, very clever that I'm sure was based on the rate at which they can manufacture them, but I think is something that Apple could copy. They were like, no, there's not an ordering page. You'll get it in 2 to 4 weeks. It's like, no, we're opening up another 1,000 buying slots. And if you basically said that, no, this is not something you go into the Apple store and you even try out. It is, we have another 10,000 that are ready to go, and tell it, and at least fill out a form to tell us why you think you need one of these units. And even oddly enough, even if it's just BS, even if they're not actually looking at these things and actually pass failing people, if it really is something where, no, it's not something that the general public is being encouraged to buy, that is something good. Remember, Google Glass, it was always framed as an experiment. They spent the entire demo after the live skydiving video streaming via Google Chat. They were saying that we don't understand what wearables, how wearables are going to fit in. We don't understand how the general public is going to react to wearables, and by that we don't just mean the people who wear them, but the people who interact with those who wear them. So therefore, as an experiment, we're putting this out to collect data on this sort of stuff, and we feel as though we'll learn a lot by that. So that's why I'm hesitant to call it a failure, because I don't think they ever really made it. They really presented it as a commercial product. If Apple does the same thing with this first iteration of their goggles, I think that will set them up for greater success later on.
Google
and yeah,
Glass, I will disagree with you on that. Google Glass damaged Google's reputation and killed that.
I think people
product.
misunderstood it. Yeah.
I mean, Robert Scoble taking a shower with it. It was a nightmare all round for Google, and I don't think anybody at Google would characterize Glass as, well, no harm, no foul. It was not a good thing.
Well, no, at least they did the right thing by it. And by the way, I loved my Google Glass. I think that if all they did was remove the camera and simply say, here is just simply a heads-up display that responds to voice commands, I think that would have been a completely different story.
Yeah, and had it been accepted, and had Robert Scoble not showered with it, maybe they would have released version 2.
Well,
but they didn't.
Not only that, but how about if Robert Scoble, like, if given like the first position in line for Q&A with Larry Page, saying, "Hi, I'm one of the original Glass holes." Like,
let's also give Google some credit here for the death of Glass, because Google is famously a company that just abandons things.
Yeah.
Right. When there's the first whiff of stink, they just are out of there. And I would say Apple shipping this product, assuming they do it, I think they're committed, right? Like, I think if they ship it, they are committed to having this platform for a long time. It
just
might
like
be the first
iPod
thing since
Hi-Fi,
the Newton.
the Apple socks.
Yeah, but this is a platform, Leo. This would be like the Newton. You'd have to go back to the Newton for this, right?
Okay.
And if it is that big a flop, then I mean, there'll be a legacy for Tim Cook. But I think Apple has so much money, they can afford to iterate on this for a long time. And the alternative is Google. Like, Google Glass didn't get laughed out of the market. It got laughed at, and then Google just dropped it like a hot rock, like every other project that Google drops.
Yeah, we don't know what the real. I have to say, you'd be nuts to pay $3,000 for this in June when it's announced. Yeah. Wait 6 months, it'll be $2,000, right? I mean,
buy it on eBay after everyone who bought it just for a review is now desperate to free up that capital for other things they need to write about.
Here's the problem. What do they do next year? Do they do something next year that's a consumer? That's what the rumor says, right?
All the reports are that this is Apple Reality Pro, and that's going to be their high-end model, and that there will be a consumer-ish model. Although we say consumer model, but when the high end is $3,000, the consumer model might still be more than $1,000. We don't know. Like, where is that bar? And that, again, if I was a developer thinking about investing in this platform that is going to be very different than all of Apple's other platforms, I would have questions about, like, will this ever be a high volume product in the next 2 or 3 years? Or is this Apple saying, like, oh no, but in 10 years, it's going to be great because I can't, feed myself on sales from 10 years from now if I'm a developer.
You don't and realize that app store fortunes are made with in-app purchases on games. They're not people who are buying Omni Outliner by subscription, and so that's going to be a sticking point. But if this is also going to be an experiment for them to realize that this is the pitch to the Angels version of it, where we're not going to care about how much this costs. We're going to be pitching this as a developer edition, as a first generation thing. It could be that one of the most important things they learn in the first year is that, okay, we thought you needed 19 cameras. It turns out that only 6 of them are giving us data that's really significant. We thought we needed 320 frames per second. Actually, 240 is just fine. And when you realize that there is absolutely no way in hell, even with the greatest app that has totally changed the world and caused dogs and cats to love one another as God intended them to, people are not wearing this for more than 2.5 hours for love or money. Okay, so now it's all the slick things that we did to make sure that you'd be able to wear this for 6 hours. That's not terribly relevant either. And then finally you get to the point where people who would be balking at a $600 Oculus set might say that, well, look, this is an Apple product. I'll pay $800 for it. I'll pay $1,000 for it. Not just for the Apple tax, but because I've been conditioned to spend a little more for that. It is desirable to me, and it's worth the extra money.
I want to take a little break.
Anything could happen.
When we come back, though, I'm going to ask all three of you your predictions for this. But I also want to give a little shout out to Jason Snell, who after last week's episode went out, found yellow everything, and made a video about the yellow iPhone.
I had to. I wish I had a banana and a lemon in my house.
That is the yellowest video I've ever seen.
Do not adjust your setting.
Yeah, I mean, really, because what else was there to talk about, Leo? It's just a yellow iPhone.
Yeah.
So
Where did you?
I got
It's yellow.
a yellow iPhone with tennis ball and
Where'd you get the Barrel of Monkeys?
I've had that since I worked at Macworld. I've had a Barrel of Monkeys barrel.
Okay.
And it's yellow, so it's like you win. You're yellow. You get to be in this video.
You found everything yellow, including
My
a
time to
hat and a
shine.
T-shirt. Well done.
In depth, and I did some ratings. If you haven't seen the video, I did some ratings of yellow. I talked about its pros and its cons. I think I gave it 4 out of 5, maybe 3 out of 5. Like, it's a good color, but it's not like orange. It's not that good. So like it slides. It's versatile because like the banana and a lemon taste nothing alike. So obviously yellow has got some versatility. But
Very nice.
Again,
Very
because what
nice.
else am I going to say?
Very nice. You did a
It's
great
yellow.
job.
Thank you.
Doubling down on the yellow. We'll have more with our special guest from 9 to 5 Mac, Zach Hall, Jason Snell, Andy Anako. But first, a word from our sponsor, ExpressVPN. Using the internet without ExpressVPN is like one of those people on an airplane, on the cell phone call, talking real loud. It's a sell that SVB, sell. It's not exactly private, and everybody in the plane can hear everything you're saying. When you're not using a VPN, your internet service provider, somebody sitting on your Wi-Fi network can see what you're doing, your most private, sensitive information. So don't be the person on the plane yelling into the phone. Use ExpressVPN. Now, I'll tell you, there are 3 reasons people choose a VPN. Security, of course. Privacy is another one, and the ability to watch shows anywhere in the world, to eliminate geographic restrictions. That's great, but it's important to understand you've got to choose the right VPN, and this is where people often go wrong. They say, well, I'm going to choose it by price. The free VPN. Well, let me put it this way. If you are not the customer, then you're the product, and if you're not paying for it, your privacy is just as at risk on a free VPN. ExpressVPN does it differently. First of all, it's not super expensive. I'm going to tell you, I can get it for less than $7 a month. But that money is well spent. They do a number of things to make your VPN better. First of all, privacy. They run something called Trusted Server, and this has been audited by the third party. In fact, there was a great article in Bleeping Computer about how ExpressVPN works that was fantastic, independent review. Their Trusted Server technology runs in RAM only. They wrote it specifically for this and is sandboxed. It can't write to the hard drive. So when you push that button on your ExpressVPN app on iOS or Android or Mac or Windows or Linux or on your router, you're spinning up your personal instance of the Trusted Server. No one else is using it. And then when you hang up, when you're done, when you turn off the VPN, it goes away and no trace of your visit remains. And if that weren't enough, they also use a custom Debian distribution for all their servers that wipes itself every single day. They complete fresh start. So their servers have no information. They save no information about your usage. I think that's really, really important. In fact, if you even want to be more anonymous, they take crypto for payment. So you can really protect your privacy with ExpressVPN. And secure, absolutely. They have written the best trusted VPN servers out there that they're widely used by others. And their privacy policy is vetted by third parties, is continuously vetted by third parties, and you can be reassured they follow it exactly. #1 rated by The Verge, by Business Insider. It's the only VPN I use. It's the only one I recommend. ExpressVPN. Now, I said I was going to get you a good deal. You could secure your online activity today by going to expressvpn.com/MacBreak. When you sign up for a 1-year package, you're going to get 3 months free. That's a big discount. Gets it down to below $7 a month. expressvpn.com/MacBreak. Runs everywhere. You can actually, they sell routers, or you can put it on their number of routers. You can see at the website that you can put it on. So your whole house could be protected. And it's so fast you won't know you're running a VPN. Oh, that's the other reason you want one. There's actually other reasons you might want to get a paid VPN. One is so they buy enough bandwidth for all their servers so you don't feel like you're slowed down, bogged down. 2, they rotate their IP addresses. So you're coming from an anonymous IP address that's changed constantly. expressvpn.com/MacBreak. That's the URL. to get 3 months free with a 1-year package. ExpressVPN. Don't make me spell VPN. ExpressVPN.com/MacBreak. These are the guys. And we thank them so much for supporting MacBreak. You support it right back when you use that address. ExpressVPN.com/MacBreak. So I think it's legitimate for anybody working for Apple to raise their hand and say, you know, I understand we spent a lot of money developing this product when we thought of it several years ago, just like when Mark Zuckerberg started calling Facebook Meta. It seemed like a good idea, but it's not. It's obvious. Nobody wants these things. They make 11% of the population nauseated in the first 10 minutes. Maybe this is a bad idea. Jason, do you think Apple should or should not do this?
Well, if I'm Tim Cook, I say, I hear your point there, but this is Tim. I hear your point, but we also have 120 or whatever billion dollars in cash in the bank, and my number one goal as the CEO is to make sure that the iPhone is never replaced by some other technology. And I feel like AR glasses are the one thing that could maybe do that. And I can spend a few billion in over the next 10 years every year in order to reassure that if AR glasses are ever a thing, we're there with the best product in that category.
But is this necessary to develop an AR glass?
Start.
You think this is?
I think it is because I think I think it is because they have to. This is Tim. I have to. We have to get the software out there. We have to understand what users' issues are. We need to start building our reality operating system now, so that when we get and so that we can start developing the technology that is going to get us to that future. Because I believe, if I'm Tim Cook, that I can lead us there. I think that would be their argument. If you're asking for my prediction is that this one will be have very limited sales, that they will probably cut its price, that they will say, no, next year is the real one. And that in the end, in like 2 or 3 years, they will find some niches where people really love it, but it will not be a broadly accepted consumer product for quite a while. And that they will keep pushing it, because I think the prize is something that you can wear in public outside, and that they just have to get there. So my guess is I don't think this is going to be a flop, but I also don't think it's going to be a hit.
I will buy the spectacles if they ever solve that problem. I will buy the spectacles. I don't think this puts them in a better position or worse position to make the spectacles. And I kind of agree with whoever these leakers are, that Apple should just forget it and wait till the spectacle. Work hard on the spectacles. How about you, Andy?
I think that they can make it a big success if they are concentrating on like the HoloLens market. If they're saying, if they are selling this to enterprise, they're selling it to the military, they're selling this to.
Can I point out that HoloLens is, for all intents and purposes, dead? The military has backed out of that deal, and Microsoft fired the team. Don't you already have a signal that that's a bad idea?
I think that Apple, though, can sell to these to basically when Apple has a cachet that a lot of other companies don't have. Microsoft is really good in that they can basically bend over backwards for an enterprise market. Apple is really good in that you can basically tell a community of architects that we will create the greatest visualization tool, the greatest demo tool, a tool where once your client comes in to your VR space and you hand them a $3,000 pair of Apple goggles, that's not going to seal the deal on creating the addition to your public library, but it's going to help. I think that they can, for a limited product, they can have some success. They still have an uphill battle to simply say that virtual reality is for anything other than watching movies and playing games at this point. They're going to have to create that market. I think if anybody can create it, it's probably going to be Apple. Possibly because they've got some of the most wonderful mutants in the developer community at Apple. I mean, the people who are just going to find the awesome in this product and in these APIs that Apple never imagined. And if Apple's smart enough to follow where independent developers lead, they really could go somewhere. But this is unprecedented. They don't. Apple has, it's true, $60 billion in cash. It's no longer 120. They've been doing a lot of buybacks lately, but still, that's more than couch cushion money, right?
Yeah, a lot of the mattresses.
And they are the company that can keep their definition of we've created a failed product is no Apple TV, it's a hobby. it's a hobby that we're spending a lot of money and a lot of development on, and we're keeping in the price list, and we're still shipping, but it's a hobby. So they could continue this as a hobby for a number of years until display technology moves up, until mobile processors move up, until a lot of things move up, and until, again, third parties tell them, here's what this thing is actually for. Again, I keep coming back to Apple Watch. They didn't set out to develop a fitness watch, but everyone told them, hey, that's a great fitness watch. And Apple said, yes, we are geniuses for creating this wonderful fitness watch. Yes. Glad you like it.
Zach, what do you think? Hit or miss?
I think that developer adoption is going to be virtually non-existent because you've had the success of the App Store for the iPhone, the early success for the iPad, and then kind of a pullback on the iPad in terms of apps, the utter failure of the App Store on the Apple TV, on the iMessage App Store. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of developer enthusiasm there, and just because of the price is like the big reason. But it's not something that I think developers are going to want to invest in and risk. But it doesn't mean there won't be apps though, because the apps that will matter are developer partners Apple does now before it's even out, which is, you want to make sure that you've got big game makers. You want to make sure that you've got all the video streaming services that as many as you can come on board. And that reminds me of something that I guess I was so forgettable I forgot, but I tried a Meta Quest 2, which I think is for around $300, and this is 10 times that. But anyway, I spent about a day and a half with it. I literally didn't know what it was for. I didn't know why people were buying it outside of the curiosity of a new gadget. And what I learned pretty quickly is that it's really a gaming console.
Yeah.
And it's not the best gaming console. You can get better ones for the same amount of money, but it is a gaming console. And like gaming consoles, you've got not just games, but you've got the streaming video apps. And there's that. And I watched Netflix on the Quest 2, and it was like a virtual TV and like a ski lodge. And it wasn't full screen immersive, but I had an issue where I wanted to lay down. I was watching it, but it was like relative to where I was. I couldn't quite get it right and like reset my reference. So it was much harder than watching a TV on the wall. And bottom line, I think that experience sucked. And that if there's one thing Apple can do, it can look at a market, a category, and say, this exists, so there's obviously interest in it. It's not gone away yet. But we can actually do a good version of that. And I think they will do that. I think it'll be a really good, maybe gaming device, maybe communications device, but definitely a good way to watch TV, watch movies, watch sports. They bought NextVR a few years ago, and that was an actual service that you could stream NBA basketball games, among others, and have a virtual experience, viewing of it, courtside seats without being there. And in that pit, just it's more compelling, but I think they got to lean heavy on entertainment and games. And I'm not sure that the communication stuff, is it going to be a better FaceTime experience than just using your phone in your hand? I'm not sure. The AR stuff, they've already built that up for years, so they've got that to work off of. But AR for one, and then the entertainment stuff is going to be a big one, I think. So
I agree with you so strong. To this day, the best thing I like about VR glasses are simply an app that puts you. It's again. This is making me sound so boring, but an app that simply puts you in the best seat in a really good movie theater with a huge screen. I mean, one of my favorite movies is 1776. And my Blu-ray is like 235 to 1, like the really widescreen aspect ratio. I have never seen it in a theater, and the first time I just randomly grabbed it and popped it in, and I'm looking at the cinematography and how these things were set up, and for the first time I realized that there's a shot in which John Adams and Ben Franklin are checking in to see how Jefferson is doing, like writing the Declaration of Independence, and of course Ben Franklin he's an old man, so he immediately like goes to the back of the room, gets into bed, and starts napping while the two guys in the foreground are talking. And because I've only ever seen this like on a TV in my living room, as soon as I saw that in the virtual huge theater, I realized that, oh, you clever bastard. I'm supposed to be looking at these two guys in the foreground. I'm not supposed to be really paying attention to Ben Franklin at all. He's supposed to be in my peripheral vision, but I've never been able to see this with stuff in my peripheral vision before. So a lot of people, if this is going to be their first virtual reality experience, I don't think it'll be $3,000 worth, but once they get it down to $1,000 inside the Apple store and they can test it out, that's the sort of thing that gets people, at least it puts the product on their radar. Maybe not, I'm going to buy it now, but hey, I've got a tax refund coming in 4 months. Maybe I'll use some of my mad money for one of these.
So I have a Quest 2, and I don't think it sucks, but I do think it points how shall I phrase this, Zach? It points the way to where it could be better. It is, I enjoy it, but like I have the Skybox, I think is the name of the good movie playing app on the MetaQuest. And, it's grainy because it's a low resolution screen, but you can, sitting in that theater watching something, it can be an actually good experience. And I always had that thought of like, now imagine it with spatial audio and at actual high resolution that you're sitting in a movie theater. Also, I'll say 3D movies, which are really lousy in a movie theater because they cut the brightness in half when you put the glasses on a set of VR goggles, 3D movies actually look good because they're full brightness in your eyes. And at high resolution, those will look great. So I think Apple, because they've got a video service and a movie store and all of that, like I think that they're going to lean in on that. And I think that will be good. And then games, I would only throw in on top of games that the gamification of fitness has actually been very successful. And that's why you see Meta trying to buy like Beat Saber and then Supernatural. And like they know what hits on their platform, and that's Apple will learn the same thing if they are they're already taking tips from what Meta's learning. And so like fitness is already an Apple thing, right? So fitness in VR, and I know it sounds kind of weird, but the truth is, and I hope it's sweat proof, but the truth is sometimes, exercising where you can be in an immersive environment where you don't have to think about exercising, that has shown already to be successful. So there are niches. It's just not going to be like your mom's not going to call you up and say, I'm getting this VR thing, right? Like I think it's going to be some very specific niches. And I hope Apple's satisfied with that because they're going to have to be in this for the long haul.
Yeah. And $3,000 isn't a crazy amount of money to spend on a home theater setup. Especially if you look at, you live alone, you buy a TV and a home theater setup. So it's just for you. Well, this is just for you as well, but it's even more just for you and it's portable. So that's pretty good. And we know that Apple's doing VR content already with TV Plus. They've got that worked out. We know that they wanted VR rights for NFL. And that was why they walked away.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that. We didn't know that. Oh,
it was reported out that was sort of the breaking point for the deal to have Sunday Ticket was they wanted rights to things that didn't exist yet, i.e. virtual reality streaming rights. So take the next VR NBA scenario and apply it to football, and the NFL wanted to sell that separately, understandably. So
this is kind of surprising to me because honestly, maybe people like to watch movies and football games all by themselves, but it's a social thing for me when I'm watching football, especially. I don't want to sit on a couch with 3 other people wearing headsets.
No, but it will get you a social thing with your friends who are not local, right? And there are a lot of people who are more isolated. And
so
the
we'll
idea
be sitting all in that ski lodge watching the football game together.
Watching the football game, and you'll be able, like you're sitting next to each other, you'll be able to talk to each other while you're watching it.
God.
I think I think there's some potential there. It's not for everybody, but I do think that there's some potential there to watch a movie with your friends who you might not be able to see a movie with otherwise.
And the other cool thing is when they shoot live events like in 360, the ability to direct your attention to whatever end of the court you actually want to focus on. One of my first positive experiences with VR was actually with Google Cardboard because they had some sort of lip sync challenge that Jimmy Fallon was hosting or whatever. And so they did like a 360 and they put the 360 camera just at a random place, like in the audience. And it really taught me a lot because the audience was like a music audience where everybody was no seats, everybody was standing up. It was kind of crowded, so you couldn't move around, but that makes it perfect for virtual reality because that means that you're not going to be walking around doing things you can't do. You'll be always there. And I was doing this without even thinking about it. I was doing the same things I do whenever I'm at a live performance where, yes, I'm paying attention to the performance, but I'm actually want to look at the edge of the stage to see, like, I want to see the tech guys who are like trying to solve a problem. I want to see the host who's going over some notes. I want to turn around and see where are the lights, where are the cameras. And that really does put you in a place where I'm not simply passively watching entertainment. I feel like I'm actually there. And so Jason's right. Like if you had a situation where you're going to create essentially virtually 4 seats at a stadium where you can be telling your person your friend 500 miles away saying, hey, look at what the coach is doing over there. I think he's signaling for a change over there. It doesn't matter that the camera operator is not looking there. The fact that you can change your point of view and look there. A lot of really cool things. It's going to be hard to change these really good first experiences into something that makes you forget how much money you spent on this thing.
I am going to go on the record saying none of that's compelling in the least to me. Nobody wants to wear these things for more than 10 minutes. A certain percentage of the world gets sick, which is never a good thing for a consumer product. I just think this is a massive flop for Apple, and of course when you say that, then I'm now the Steve Ballmer on the iPhone guy. It should have a keyboard. Where's the keyboard? But I have to wonder, what is it that Apple could do that would make this thing better than all of the things we've already seen? PlayStation VR and the HTC Vive and the various Oculuses. What are they going to do that's better? Is it I mean,
I think it's licensing deals. I think it's partner deals. I think if you can have this thing that has Apple Music live concerts that you can attend from anywhere in the world, that's compelling, and it's not something that you see. You won't see PlayStation do it. You don't see Meta doing it. So it's Apple's ability to have partners in media and entertainment that they already have relationships with, and if they can bring that to the headset, I think that's something they can do that others don't do or haven't been able to do.
Yeah,
they can also leverage the iPhone into a VR. Basically, make every iPhone into a VR and 3D capture device. I mean, the things that are being done with neural radiance fields right now, that if just by virtue of the fact that you have an iPhone, you don't own an Apple VR headset, but the fact that you were shooting someone's birthday with an iPhone and you pushed on the camera carousel. Now there's a Nerf panel on there that through whatever elfin magic they would do to make this happen, you're now, as you move around, it's capturing more details from there. And now when you share something either via FaceTime or just via Apple Photos, you get this new experience. There's it could really, let's just say it could make the green bubble even more small, even more nasty, even more egregious, saying, oh, you can't join the VR chat. Okay, that's fine. Enjoy your emojis.
I also will caution people that one of the things that happens with these, every time people put them on for the first time, they get so excited and so, jazzed. And this is the future. It's like the Segways. This is the future. This is the future. And then, God, but wait a month and see if they're still using it a month later. Because in every case, in my experience, a month later, it's like, I'm back to watching the TV. Oh, one other caveat, as long as I'm being cranky, those of you history buffs who are running out now to download 1776 should probably be made aware that Andy is talking about a 1972 musical version of the history. I haven't seen it, Andy, so maybe it is the best movie ever made.
I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite. I wouldn't say it's one of the best movies ever made. You have to get around the fact that it is a singing and dancing musical about the founding fathers. But yeah, it is intense. The 30-second thing I will promote it with is that they got the original cast from the Broadway production that did like hundreds and hundreds of performances. Each one of these actors knows this role and has dug into it. And by the time you get halfway through, you're wondering, is this America thing ever going to happen or not?
Oh, wow.
So it's really good.
Or more.
Also,
is this America thing ever going to happen?
if you're a fan of Friends, you'll recognize the fountain from the opening credits of Friends. You will actually see Ben Franklin, John Adams, and Richard Henry Lee like doing a big number around that fountain. There you go.
Well, that makes it worth the price of admission. I will be watching it tonight, because you've mentioned it before, and I've always meant to. And thank you for reminding me. And also to Zach and everybody at 9 to 5 Mac, well done not falling for this. The tweet that says, first real-world look at Apple's mixed reality headset parts from a Twitter user with a protected account who has, Mac Rumors says, a track record for sharing accurate information about Apple components, although somebody in the comments here at Mac Rumors points out that this picture of the microphone in the so-called VR headset looks suspiciously exactly like the picture of the microphone in the HomePod. I mean, maybe they would reuse the part. Why would you make a new microphone? But I don't know if we've learned anything anyway from these pictures. So
this is around the time where if they were starting to manufacture hardware, this is around the time that at least we're willing to entertain the notion that we're starting to see products leak from the supply chain.
Somebody in China will have taken a picture and put it on their protected Twitter account, and so
and my understanding is that the hardware is done, so that would be that absolutely seems to be the case.
Yeah. Okay. We have been told that you will have to carry a battery in your pocket, right? It's plugs into a separate battery. That'll make.
I mean, get a special shirt with a battery pocket. Go ahead.
Apple will have accessories. They'll have a sock version.
Oh Lord,
it'll keep the back of your neck warm.
Right.
Battery belt.
I don't want to be that guy, but I think I am. That this thing
the
is
Chewbacca edition
is destined.
I'm getting the
for
Hermes version.
A horrible.
I mean, you might be right, Leo, but I will say, I mean, you talk about people getting sick, but part of that is the lag. And if the Apple does a good job with the lag, they might not make people sick. And the weight of the battery, like I think that having a battery thing snaking off of this thing is super inelegant, and I kind of can't believe that that's really going to be the case. However, the counter argument is they tried it with the battery on the unit, and it made it so miserable to wear.
Nobody wants to wear it.
And when they took it off, the average length of time people could wear it really increased, which would address your whole nobody wants to wear it for more than 15 minutes. True. So maybe that's a sign of them making a good trade-off, which is it's less elegant, but it's more usable. Who knows?
Yeah. It's an interesting design problem where once you start off with the first thing you write on the whiteboard if you get all the data from R&D saying, okay, we're free. There is no way for anybody to wear this and look stylish, dignified, elegant, or anything. So we can make it big. We can put antennas up there. We can have wires hanging off it. None of it matters because if anybody had dignity with this, they would not be using this outside away from a power outlet anyway.
I will point out that the Segway, which was in fact very useful, fun to ride, died because you looked like an absolute on it. And that I would submit Google Glass probably died for the same reason. Absolutely. So let's not deprecate.
Well, also because you had to walk around with a camera which didn't have a light on it to say, oh, by the way, I could be recording it.
Only use your VR headset in the privacy of your own home.
When no one's around,
nobody knows you look like a dummy. Yeah.
Please wear pants. I cannot stress this enough. Put on some pants.
Well, the nice thing about Meta, they've avoided this. You don't have legs, so there's no issue.
Right.
It reminds me of an iPad keynote where Steve Jobs read a note from a customer who said, I was sitting in a cafe with my iPad and it got a girl interested in me. And that's what I call a magical device. I don't think it's going to happen with this.
No.
With the headset.
No.
Women, it's not a chick magnet, as they say. Although, if Apple would offer chick magnet stickers to put on the front of it, that might help.
The only problem is you may not, depending on how they get these external cameras running, it's possible you're not even going to know when Generation Z people and Zoomers are making fun of you and posting TikToks about you at your expense.
Or you can miss a connection. Yeah, you missed your love of your life walks by because you're in VR and you miss her.
Star Wars boy is coming back, baby, and he's wearing a headset. All right. Okay. I think we've talked about this enough. We have till June. I've been thinking about, because we talked last week about this rumor that there'd be an M3 15-inch MacBook Air and so forth. And you made a really good point, I think it was Jason, that Apple's not going to clog up WWDC. If they're going to release these, they're going to spend all the time talking about these headsets.
Yeah.
and laptops will be somewhere else. So
That's why there are these rumors that maybe there are M3 MacBook Airs coming sooner than we would think. If you combine it with the idea that that the old Air last year, which came out in July but was announced in June, was actually really late, and that they may already be on to the next cycle. I always thought that was a little bit wild as an idea, but you probably, if you've got that product, you probably either want to, introduce it after WWDC or before WWDC, because I have a hard time imagining if there's a new headset at the conference that there's going to be room for what is basically a consumer product, right? Maybe the Mac Pro could be announced there, but MacBook Air, there's got to be a better venue for it than that.
yeah, you had actually a great piece in Macworld about this, and it sounds like you think that it's probably Apple's going to go to now. It's going to be a TikTok yearly cycle for the M processors.
Mark Gurman made this weird statement that Apple has declared they want to be on an annual cycle for the chips, which I don't think Apple's ever said anything like that, and there's been no evidence to that. But at the same time, they do it for the phone, right? And so I could see them saying we also want to do this for the M series, and my thought was maybe the M base model M series comes out every year, but they take the desktop computers and they sort of like interleave them, where like each of the set of desktop computers that have the Pro and the Max and Ultra chips, those get updated every 2 years, but the Air gets a new chip every year. And certainly the M3 feels like it might be a bigger step forward than the M2 was, because of the TSMC is going to do a die shrink down to 3 nanometers, which means you're going to get the energy efficiency and the speed boost and all of that. And then also they're going to skip probably a generation of the A series, or, we may see that they're not going to always debut their brand new chip architecture with the phone. They might actually do it with the Mac sometimes, and there's no reason that they couldn't do that. In fact, who's to say that in the end they even use, they would like to use the same cores in all their products, but like if they've got a GPU core that's a little hungrier, maybe it goes in the Mac and it doesn't go in the iPhone. There's a lot of possibility there, and we just haven't seen enough cycles of this for us to know exactly what Apple's trying to go for, and it all got muddied by, I think, the pandemic and the factory shutdowns and things like that. But M3 sooner rather than later, I'm kind of getting into it now. I think it's going to be a big step forward for them.
I loved your piece. Apple is about to unleash the full power of the Mac. We're going to see what the Mac can really do when it's finally set free. Set my Mac free, please.
Yeah, I don't write those headlines, but they're effective.
I like it. That made me happy. You got me excited.
They keep changing them too. There's SEO going on. Look, Macworld does what it's going to do. I don't work there anymore. I'm just like those Apple designers who left. It's like, I don't know. I don't know. I just read columns.
Just a headline. I write some words. They put a thing on top. That's all.
They put a thing on top. Yeah.
I read a boring headline. Many conscripted A/B headline testers.
Yes.
So they've changed. You know what? I was searching for it and I couldn't find it. I guess that's because they changed the headline.
Yeah, they keep changing the headlines. It's wild stuff.
That explains it. I know I read this. I know. All right, let's take a little break. Zach Hall, great to have you. 9 to 5 Mac. Appreciate your being here with your Falcon Heavy. And I'm talking about the rocket that's sitting on top of his Mac Classic. That's a good combination. I like that. Isn't there a launch, John, today? There's always a launch now. They're doing a resupply.
It's a day of the week.
Yeah, every day of the week.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what's not every day of the week. It's Pi Day. Happy Pi Day, everybody. 3.14159.
Good knowledge.
That's all I can say. Our show today brought to you by ZipRecruiter. Ooh, we know intimately here at Twit what it's like when you get notice from an employee. They said, well, I'm moving on to greener pastures. It's been great. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. And then we look at each other and go, oh, we're going to have to fill that position. Oh, we're all going to have to work extra hours to get this stuff done. Happened most recently when our wonderful Ashley left. She didn't want such a long commute. She found somewhere closer to home. We needed somebody in our continuity department. And what did? We went immediately to ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter is where we do all our hiring, and it really works. And I'll tell you something. Lisa gets the email. We're at breakfast. She posts it on ZipRecruiter. First thing that happens is it goes out to all the job boards, 100 plus job boards, plus all the social media. So your post gets seen everywhere. What's nice is you don't get inundated by responses because all of the calls and the emails and the resumes go into the ZipRecruiter interface. So you can go there when you have a moment and scan through it. You can have actually automated screening with true false questions or multiple choice or even essay questions. So you can get rid of people that just, don't fit the bill. And then ZipRecruiter does something remarkable. They already, a lot of job hunters come to ZipRecruiter, so they have 1 million plus resumes on file, current resumes. They actually scan them, look for people who fit your needs, and then send them to you and say, hey, I got 10 people here who might work. You invite them to apply. And I have to tell you, when you invite somebody to apply to a job, it really makes a difference. They wake right up. They respond to you immediately. They show up for the interviews. It's a really great experience for them and for you. So as Lisa posts it in the morning, an hour later, she says, oh, because we're worried. We're sweating. What are we going to do? She says, oh, here's a good one. Another hour later, oh, here's a couple more good ones. By lunchtime, I think we had 3 or 4 really qualified candidates. It was great. She interviewed them all. We hired Viva. Very, very happy. ZipRecruiter makes it easy to find the right people fast. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate in the first day. And as I said, we got them in the first hour. It was so good that Lisa was kind of, the next day going, oh, they're all so good. I don't know which one should I hire? It really is an amazing experience. If you're hiring for your team, I know it's a tough market right now. Unemployment's very low. No matter what industry you're in, though, if you need to hire, ZipRecruiter is the place to go to ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak to try it for free. You'll find those candidates fast. You'll find the right candidate. The right person's out there, the person who can make your company. ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak to keep your team growing strong. And you can try it for free right now. ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. It's really an amazing system that I recommend 100%. ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. We thank them not only for helping us hire great people, but for sponsoring the show and lending us their financial support. You do the same, by the way. If you are looking for somebody to hire, go to ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. Then they'll know you saw it here, and that helps us out a lot. You know what else helps us out a lot? And a real thank you to our Club Twit members. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You can say right now you are keeping the lights on, keeping the staff working, and keeping new shows launching. Thanks to Club Twit members, we just relaunched Home Theater Geeks in the club. We've got Hands on Mac, Hands on Windows. This Week in Space started in the club. And as soon as we got a big enough audience and got some advertisers, we were able to make it public. It's now got video as well. What do you get? For $7 a month, I think it's a great deal. You get ad-free versions of all the shows. You get access to the best darn social network in the world, the Club Twit Discord. And that, I tell you why, I realize why it's good, because everybody paid $7 a month to be there. So nobody's going to mess around, right? It's a very exciting, fun place. The other reason it's great is it's all people like you. It's friends. You also get the Twit Plus feed with shows we don't put out in public, the Untitled Linux Show and the Giz Fizz and Stacy's Book Club, lots of events. Twit.tv/clubtwit. It would help us immensely if you would become a member of the club, and we'd love to have you there. $7 a month. Twit.tv/clubtwit. Thank you, Jason Snell, for pitching in with an animated GIF. That's what makes the club what it is today.
You got to do it. You got to do it.
Join
I know
us.
the rules. I've read the room. I know what it is. Yeah.
That is the only bad thing about the Discord is so many animated GIFs. Like there's not enough room for text in here. All right. Yes, by the way, Patrick Delahanty, our engineer, says the GIFs inside are epic. So come on in. Anyway, I just wanted to say a thank you to all of our members. We really appreciate your support. Thank you. Clubbers. I need a name. I don't want to call you Twits. I need a name. Twitters? No, can't do that. Jason Calacanis, maybe I had some mixed feelings about having him on Twit on Sunday to talk about Silicon Valley Bank. Others shared that. And so we didn't put him in the main show. We put him on afterwards. But one of the things I wanted to ask him, you might remember when Elon first bought Twit, he started calling himself Chief Twit, a moniker which I've had for more than 12 years in many of my socials and so forth. It's on my business card, for crying out loud. And then he stopped doing it a few days later. He just dropped it. And I thought maybe because Jason was in the room that maybe he said something to Elon. And I asked him, he said, well, I can't talk about that. But I think maybe I owe you, Jason. So there you go. Debt fulfilled. Thank you for getting him off of my handle. Shareholders meeting this year, they do it every year. The shareholders were meek, mild. There were no, as far as I know, there were no rebellious shareholders. And you might look at the headline here saying Apple shareholders approve 40% pay cut for Tim Cook and say, well, that sounds pretty rebellious, but he wanted it. He asked for it. Right, Zach? This wasn't a surprise.
That is correct.
And it makes sense. We praised, Andy, I think you praised another CEO who, instead of firing people, took a cut in pay. I think that's kind of what's going on, right? Is it rather than letting people go, one way to be fiscally responsible is to take a pay cut.
Yeah. Also, you're making a lot of money with the value of the company itself, so it's not nothing. But the fact that there's so many CEOs that are not even willing to take a symbolic gesture, that they are so disconnected, and $50 million, that's a lot of salaries that could be protected.
Elon got $50 billion last year from Tesla. Just to put this in perspective.
Yeah.
Cook got in 2021 and 2022 $100 million, which is an awful lot of money. So when you say he got cut by half, still 49 million ain't bad.
He's still buying the name brand cereal, the kind that comes in cardboard boxes, not the kind that comes in plastic bags.
He's not clipping coupons, right? Not yet.
No.
I mean, he might, but only because it's fun for him. Which actually, that does sound like Tim Cook. I think he's probably a coupon clipper.
I guarantee you, look how he dresses. He's definitely a coupon cutter.
Yeah.
Remember
that is off the rack from Kohl's. I swear to God.
Steve, do you remember how Steve Jobs is a famous story about how he delighted in scamming the cafeteria out of like, they take it out of my pay, but my pay is only $1 a year. It's like, I don't know where the money's coming from, but it's great.
And of course, it's a charming story. And of course, the reality is that there's somebody in the accounting group who actually monitors all of Steve's things and was like, oh, geez, and was counteracting it and like adjusting and like doing all this work. And Steve's like, ha ha, it's a joke.
He probably was making hours of work for some poor accounting person.
Undoubtedly. It was not just one of these situations where just nobody knows where the money went. It's like, somebody knows, Steve. Somebody is working on that very hard.
Oh, can you transfer that money out of payroll and put that over to? Yeah, I can see that.
So Jason, you're saying that they're passing the cost on to us, the consumers, that we were helping to pay that man's burritos.
I think they went to the couch where they kept their billions in cash, and then every now and then somebody would go in there and pull out a large numbered bill and then just apply that to Steve's
how much
cafeteria.
How much could the lunch have been? Really, seriously.
Yeah,
that's like a microsecond of interest on their.
Well, he did ask for the extra guac, and that is an upsell.
But isn't that the way? I mean, a billionaire founder who gets off on the idea that he's getting away with free pudding. I love that idea, but at the same time, like, you don't become a billionaire. This is the thing about like the baseball owners are complaining that players are getting paid too much by other owners, right? And it's like, boy, never get between a billionaire and any amount of money that they could be cheap about, because that's why they're a billionaire. Yeah,
the cheapest people I've ever met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tim Cook, I mean, I also think Tim Cook is just that guy, right? I have never met him. I've only seen him, like, I've been near him, but I've never met him. But you get the sense that he's kind of a sensible guy who's probably like, give me, I don't want the best thing. Give me the mid range of a thing. And like, can we save a little money there? That it just seems like he's that guy.
Yeah. And he's already said he's going to give some of the money to his nephew, right?
And then the rest will be to charity.
Yeah. So it's not like it's not like he needs it. I mean, honestly, I could live on 4 million easy a year.
Sure.
So, 1/10.
Could take half of that in cash.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So I don't know. This is from Bloomberg, and I don't know if it's cause for concern or not. Apple's new challenge, a wave of key executives leaving the company. Mark Gurman writing last week, an unprecedented wave of executive departures. About a dozen high-ranking executives, most of them not SVPs, but just below senior vice president, many of them vice presidents. Some of the most, Gurman says, some of the most important figures at Apple responsible for day-to-day operations in industrial design, the online store, information systems, cloud, hardware, software, privacy, sales, subscription services, procurement. A far higher amount of turnover than we've seen in recent memory. Cause for concern, or is it just people want to spend more time with their money?
I think that there comes a time, especially at Apple, when you realize that you've gone as far as you're going to go. There are a lot of people whose brains are wired up such that it doesn't matter that they have this amazing position at one of the most influential and famous companies, tech companies in the world. It's that I'm never going to be able to run. I'm not going to be running a show at this point. And sometimes there's so much cross-pollination inside that culture that it's like I could be making just as much money sitting on the boards of other people's companies than I can actually having to deal with the argument about whether or not we should actually be shipping VR glasses. And I'm now 43 years old. I would like to be able to play with my Legos that have been boxed up in my closet unmade. I don't think this is a really big deal. It was in Gurman's newsletter, not as like a feature article, which as our friend Rene Ritchie pointed out, he's a great source for all kinds of stories. There's a reason why he's puts some stuff in the newsletter and some stuff as like feature articles.
He's speaking more as an analyst here than he would be as a reporter.
But it is interesting. It's not as interesting as what's happening at Google, where you have like, I can't remember her name, but one of the earliest employees at Google finished her career as the CEO of YouTube. I'm sorry, I can't believe
Susan Wojcicki.
Thank you, Susan Wojcicki. Thank you very much. Then you have a problem where she's only spent the last 9 years at YouTube. She's just such an intellect, but also someone who understands how Google works, understands what it's good at, what it's bad at, what its priorities should be, what its priorities could be. So when someone like that leaves, that is a brain drain. And even when you're replacing it with somebody who's been at Google since 2007, 2009, I think, that's a brain drain. At Apple, that's really hard to do because the people who make it up to the very, very top levels, those are the people that have been they were born and bred in the Apple Petri dish. They were raised and trained in the Apple culture that Steve created, that Steve groomed Tim Cook for. They're making sure that there's always a legacy plan so that whatever it is that makes Apple will continue through changes in leadership. So this is not something to really be worried about.
Yeah, there's kind of a scale. It's have you heard of this person's name before? If not, can you find past references to them in press? If not, then it's maybe just normal churn. I don't have a lot of data to compare to other years, but I think as a writer, you do want to make what you're writing sound like it matters. So there's a little bit of that.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Because it is news. It is non. Yeah.
Apple stock price. He says, I don't think this is accurate, but he says Apple's stock fell 30% last year, following 3 years of major gains. I don't follow Apple's stock price really closely, but that is one reason we talk about that, because employees are often compensated in stock. I think 80% of Tim Cook's compensation will be stock. So the stock price becomes extremely important.
I'm with Zach about these lower level people. I'm not sure whether this is normal churn or not, but I think that we've been saying for years now that brain drain is a potential killer for Apple. And because as Mark, I think, really pointed out very well, separate from these losses is an executive team that's all about the same age. They've all been there for 20 years. They're all incredibly rich on Apple stock at this point, right? Yeah. And you do wonder, all right, well, what's the next generation of leadership? And the risk is if you've got people who are all in their like in their 50s and 60s, and they've made a lot of money and they've been there a very long time and they're very senior, not only are they not going to be there that much longer, but who is coming up behind them? And if they feel stifled inside Apple, and they've also made a lot of money, maybe they get out of there. And that's the real risk, because the other factor here that we all have seen happen is Apple is such a very particular culture that you kind of can't import. There's some jobs that you can, but there are a lot of jobs you can't just import a senior executive from somewhere else in the valley or even somewhere else on planet Earth. You kind of need to bake them inside of Apple, at least for a while, if not for decades. And so if you're losing your top level just because they're going to age out at some point, and then the level down below them, there's this question of like, are they ever going to be given the reins? And you risk a scenario where you lose a lot of your best people and you can't replace them, or you have to go outside to replace them and risk damaging your corporate culture that you work so hard to build. I do think, they're a victim of their own success, essentially, but I think that that's true, that it's a major risk. And I wonder if their new head of people, who also is not an Apple person, somebody brought in from the outside, if that's job one for them is retention, because at some point, you will lose your stars if you can't give them more to do.
Yeah. Think about with what's happening in retail, where they hired in some people who were superstars, like at Burberry and other organizations. The question is, do these people find themselves wanting to live out the rest of their careers at Apple, or do they serve a certain purpose at Apple until Apple has assimilated the knowledge and expertise they have? Do they get this thing launched, and then at some point they realize that again, there's not a whole lot left for me to do. I'm fully vested. I've completed the terms of my stock, my stock dividend. I can just simply leave here, and with $50 million in my pocket, it reminds me, it'd be interesting to follow up on what really impressed me when the first news broke about Apple's car project was the number of high profile executives at other companies that Apple managed to bring in. I mean, the slide deck they must have presented to saying, I know that you are one of the top people at BMW. We would like you to abandon this career track you've been on at this one company for 20 years and start a secret project that that may not even turn into an actual product. Would you like to join us? I know that they've showed a lot of those people, but have they managed to create a world in which people who have experiences and perspectives that were not grown at Apple can find themselves productive and listened to at Apple? Or once again, you're just here to tell us where to buy tires. Once we've got a source for tires, you can go.
Well, Apple will be telling you which iPhone you can get soon. They've introduced something called Shop with a Specialist. You can connect directly to somebody who will say, you should buy the most expensive iPhone. They must think that people are a little confused, or maybe this is because people don't go into the store anymore, or they don't
a lot of people can't go into a store.
Yeah, and they don't like the service that the third party, carrier stores are providing. So maybe Apple says, well, we should make a better way to buy a phone at home. You think that's the reason for this?
It's going to be a really good experience with the headset when you go to buy an iPhone.
Oh, maybe it's all for VR now, right? So if you go to apple.com/shop/buy-iPhone, then you can just, I'm not going to click this because I don't want to embarrass myself. Is the yellow phone faster? You can get some pics. What do you think I don't know. Zach, come on, you're a reporter. Call these guys. Find out what they tell you. Do they just unilaterally, universally recommend the iPhone 14 Pro? Or do they sometimes say, an SE would be right for you?
There are reports that the iPhone 14 non-Pro version isn't selling as well as maybe expected, especially the Plus version.
Right.
A little bit reminiscent of the iPhone XS and XR cycle, where they needed to improve sales. It was way unexpected, in terms of what they were seeing, way below what expected. And they did a number of things in the store and online and elsewhere it was like, we've got 6 tricks we've been waiting to roll out. We're going to do them all at once to improve sales. This reminds me of that, but it's just one thing. So, it's something that they probably have in mind anyway, but a pretty good time to roll it out if they are trying to improve sales of lower end phones.
They must have some data about how many people are going to the online Apple store but leaving something in their cart, or spending a lot of time looking at models but not closing the deal.
Yeah.
I thought, reading the press release from Apple, I think it's significant that they are specifically mentioning that this is something for people, for customers in the US. There's no even hint as to at any point even expanding it to Canada or other countries. If so, it would be an interesting data point about how they realize that they're not going to have Apple stores all over the world. They want to make sure that they can give like white glove, not sales pressure, but at least that sort of Apple store experience to everybody. So I think Zach has a point here. They've seen where there's something where they're just not closing the deal, and they're thinking that it's probably not that expensive to get this up and running and see if that helps any.
And personally, I would be terrified to use this service. It's just not in my comfort zone. What I do like is Apple's business chat feature, where you can iMessage essentially with companies, and that is awesome. I talked to my phone carrier through that service, and it's always a great experience. So
that's interesting.
Have it for Apple.
You didn't do it on the Apple page to your carrier. You went to your carrier page to talk to your carrier.
I go to Spotlight search on the iPhone. I type in T-Mobile, and then there's a chat icon, and then I talk to. It's basically their chat support, but it's you view it through Apple's iMessage service essentially, and Apple uses that as well, which is pretty good. And you could say, well, what's after that? Video, and you could see maybe them doing this for at least for their own stuff, and sort of elevating the chat experience to be video experience. It's still something I wouldn't want to do, but I could imagine I could imagine families say, use this service. Don't ask me these questions. Ask Apple these questions,
yes,
and they'll help you out.
That's who really loves this. Us. Don't ask me. Just call Apple. Maybe this is a kind of preparatory to a VR experience where you could kind of walk into an Apple store.
I doubt it. I mean, $3,000 before you can even start shopping. If any company's going to do that, it would be Apple, but I don't know. You're not walking out with an $8 pair of iPod socks.
I have to say,
with
when
that transaction,
Microsoft released the HoloLens for a long time in the Microsoft stores. Remember those? They would have a HoloLens tryout thing that you could go try them out. I am sure Apple will do something like that with the VR headset. Yeah, you can go to the Apple store and try it.
I would also say separate this from iPhone sales currently. You could look at this as they're about 6 months away from the next iPhone 15, and so this is the time you want to release this, not then. And then they'll have this as an option when the next iPhones come out.
Because
work out the bugs when sales are low. I mean, I don't know all those yellow iPhones that they're going to be pushing now. That's really important.
Actually, I'm sorry, you joke, but right here in the headlines of customers. There you go. Right in the subhead, Apple introduces Shop with a special for video. Customers in the US can now connect with an Apple special for video. Shop the iPhone lineup, including the iPhone 14, 14 Plus, available today in an all-new yellow color.
Marketing 101 right there. Remember, by the way, I find it charming when Apple actually makes an attempt to try sales things, because there was a time not that long ago, like 4 years ago, where iPhones just sold themselves.
They didn't have to.
And, and Angela Ahrendts was she brought in for Burberry to sort of make it an experience, and we're going to plant some trees, and it's going to be a community space. And then they had that drop off after the brand new iPhone, went really big the first year, but then it started to tail off. And since then, and anybody who works in Apple retail can tell you this, but since then, Apple's been like, oh yeah, sales techniques. Let's try that. Let's actually try to sell our products. Can we push products and get, and since then, it's just amazing to watch a company that came so far just on like laying their products out and saying, have at it, and now is actually making an effort to find ways to boost sales. But they are. The last 4 years has really been Apple's retail arm trying hard, actually like working to sell product in a way that they never did before.
And good news, you don't have to put your pants on because you will not be on camera. Apple reassures you that don't worry. And it looks like the whole idea of this is that the salesperson can share their screen, so they can say, well, look at this, look at that. So there's, it's kind of an interesting idea. If somebody does this, call in and let us know, and I'd love to get your experience. I can't really do it on the air because I'd have to say ahead of time, may we record this and all of this stuff. And, by then, they say, well, you need to talk to PR. Bye. And I don't want to do that. Good. Another way to buy an iPhone. Not a bad thing. Of course, because I just bought the new big HomePods, Apple is now rumored to be working on new big HomePods with their own display, which I would actually have preferred, but okay. Ming Chi Kuo says the display won't be here till next year, based on third-party supply chain companies such as Tianma, a Chinese display manufacturer. It wouldn't look like the existing HomePod. It would feature a 7-inch display, kind of more like a Nest Hub or an Echo Show.
Yeah.
Which I think is smart.
Yeah, it's a good category. I've wanted one for a while. I actually just retired my Echo Show because I got tired of Alexa saying, by the way, I can do this thing. I was like, shut up, I don't care.
Talk about upsell. Holy
Yeah. And believe it or not, Google so I switched to a Nest Hub, and it's much more pleasant. But all the while, I'm thinking to myself, I really would like Apple to make a product in this category because there really is value. I mean, I don't think it's going to sound like the big HomePod. It's probably going to sound more like the HomePod Mini, but I think this is a great category. I love having a little smart speaker in my kitchen. I use it to add things to my shopping list. We use it for named timers when we're cooking. You can do it all hands-free.
Well, and you put Apple TV on it. You can have... that's how I will watch the news in the kitchen is I'll put it on the Google device. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Exactly right. So there's a lot of application for these things, either by your nightstand or in your kitchen or whatever. And I'm surprised Apple has taken so long to get here, because the first time I used the first Echo Show, I was like, oh yeah, there's value in just showing some data. And Apple has built, they've got watch apps, they've got widgets, they've got tvOS, they've got so many different ways to show you little bits of information on top of just Siri that it's like a screen would really help here, right? Like even Siri on the HomePod, it's sort of like, it's hobbled by the fact that on the iPhone it can say, why don't I show you this thing? And on the HomePod it's like, sorry, I can't do it. I give up. And so having a screen to display stuff on it, it's a good category. I wish Apple had been in it for years, but I'm very hopeful about this product because I do like the smart speaker with a screen. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
It does change your relationship with it too. Like if you have just the speaker that you can just put anywhere, that's fine, but it's this disembodied voice, which means it's very easy to ignore that you own this thing. Whereas if you get into the habit, if I have a Google smart screen, like on my kitchen counter, when I get in, or when I'm making breakfast, I will be looking at it all the time just to get the time, and just to get the weather. Not that it's the most critical part of my day, but it is a touchstone to remind myself that this thing exists, and as a result, I use it a lot more. And just as you say, Jason, the ability to get information via audio, but then I will give you more information if you look at the display, but I'm not going to talk for 3 minutes explaining about what the air quality index is, that there's a cold front that's approaching from Buffalo that we expect a dusting to troop. No, but if I tell me I'm going to need a jacket, but if I want to look at the 3-day forecast, I can just turn over this way. Apple has to do something, I think, to make the HomePod more relevant, to make it more of a, again, it feels like a hobby right now. There's a lot of opportunity for them to make it into a real product.
Zach, are you a screen fan?
I would like this to exist in the pitch of it's like an Echo Show or in the Facebook portal, but with FaceTime. That's a pretty good pitch.
Yeah, actually, I used to FaceTime my mom every week. She's 90. Mm-hmm. She liked doing it on the iPad, but it was a little complicated. She had to get the iPad in the right. She always answered on the phone by accident, et cetera, et cetera. So I got her a nice big Echo Show with a nice speaker, and now we just call that way, and she far prefers it. And Apple's missing a beat here because they could easily, this would be a great FaceTime device.
Right. And it could solve the problem of when you talk to your grandma on FaceTime, usually you get you don't see her face on FaceTime because of the way they're holding it, and you see the up.
She's got her thumb on the camera and
Right.
Yeah, this is in her bedroom. It's next to her bed. It's right there. I can also, they have things like drop in, which FaceTime doesn't have, where I could say, hey, Mom, wake up. Are you there? So I could talk to her directly. there's a lot of nice features, and I think Apple could really take advantage of this. It is odd that they haven't done it yet. One thing I'd love to see Apple do, and honestly, I'm kind of amazed that Google and Amazon haven't done this yet, which is add some of the ChatGPT-like AI features. And Siri could be so much smarter. I understand Apple doesn't want, Siri to start saying crazy hallucinatory things, but that's an opportunity for Apple to kind of reactivate Siri, who, I'm sorry to say, it seems like the numbskull next to Google Assistant and Amazon's Echo.
Yeah, the number of times that Apple tells me to, I will look that up for you on Google. Like, okay, I could have done that.
Yeah, that's not helpful. Here's what I found on the web for that. That's not why I asked you.
Siri's very good at things that Siri's very good at.
Yeah, which is very limited, but yeah, she does what she. I don't know. I don't want to hear Rock Me Amadeus anymore. I mean, it does sound good on those paired HomePods in my living room. There is actually a story.
Falco. Big week for Falco.
Big week for Falco.
It's good.
A big week for Falco.
There is Commissar's in town.
There is a story in Digitimes that Apple is in fact trying to build its AI chops. One of the things that happened when ChatGPT took the world by storm is all the other companies, Meta and Amazon and Google, all said, hey, we got that. We could do that. And, of course, raced to release it. Google's just about to release its own version of ChatGPT. They've released it to developers and scientists already. Meta didn't want to release theirs, but it was leaked out, and 4chan got it, and now you can play with that, too. Do you think Apple is like everybody else has been doing this? I mean, they've had some really good people working there.
Yeah, absolutely. And a few years ago, they enhanced their own recruitment by finally allowing these people to publish papers on their work, which was part of, if you're a researcher, you're not going to get your next job if you don't have lots of published papers. So I think the difficulty that a lot of these companies are having, Google included, is that, I mean, they're kind of flustered by saying, no, we didn't do ChatGPT, but we've been doing AI for years and years and years. There are so many features in your phone right now that are powered by artificial intelligence. Just one of my favorite examples is just the smarts behind getting your iPhone keyboard working to figure out that no, you didn't quite hit that letter T, but did you intend to hit a Y? Did you intend to hit the letter below it? And it's not just simply doing statistics on the number. It's basically predictive text, which is ChatGPT, essentially an extension of the basic technology there. All of these companies are saying, look, we've been doing this all the time. We just haven't done this half-baked chat app that goes nuts and starts doing things that are so ridiculous that it becomes a week's worth of inventory for late night talk show monologues.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Google, I think today just announced that they're putting a whole bunch of AI. It's encouraging them to move a lot of these AI features out of the lab and into practical products. Google just said that they're putting a bunch of AI coding tools into their cloud product. They are rolling some more AI tools into Google Workspace, and I hope that that's the way things work. I don't think Apple needs to get into the game where they're saying that they have to say that here is our chat client. I think what they need to do is next year show off that we've got a major new version of Siri without mentioning any technology behind it, but saying that you don't have to simply ask a question; it will answer. Like have a conversation and it will figure out as you go, as you both figure out what it is you actually need to know, and then give you actual practical results.
They must have that
what
technology. Maybe they're chastened though by seeing how badly it's gone in some respect. Here's somebody. A commenter on Mac Rumors asked ChatGPT to write a press release. This is what it came out with. Apple today announced that Scott Forstall has returned to the company as CEO, replacing Johnny Ive, who had replaced Tim Cook just 3 months ago. The decision to bring back Forstall was made by the board of directors, who were dissatisfied with the direction the company was taking under Ive's leadership. When you can get a AI to give you contrafactual information like that, I think Apple might think twice. They might say, we don't want, Siri already has a bad reputation. We don't want her announcing that Scott Forstall's back as CEO.
Yeah.
What?
They're just too many half-baked people who feel as though we're nobody if we don't have an AI product out on the factory, out on the shop floor right now. And it's kind of, I don't know, galling is not the right word, but like Google's been laying the groundwork for, hey, we think that we might have something interesting in our new large language models that we might be able to roll into a real product. But right now, but we're going to spend 2 or 3 years showing you the basic research because we're trying to figure out A, how well it works, B, what the problems with it are, what are the ethical biases are with it, and then finally, how are people going to be, what's the best way to implement this in a feature that's going to be relevant to people, as opposed to let's have a way that you can have a robot write your Babylon 5 Star Trek fanfic for you. It's like they've been doing this time. Google did an entire 40-minute press event on their AI, just basically saying, here's something we're doing, but we are doing this slowly and responsibly.
And
we
released
want
a slide with unfactual information on it, saying that the James Webb discovered an exoplanet when it had been done 12 years earlier.
Yeah.
So
that's
egg on their face
that's
there.
even, oh, big egg, because that wasn't just, oh, we did a live demo and it said something wrong. It's like, no, we created a slide that we looked at, we could have proofread, and we chose to publish it anyway. That is, well, let's keep walking around this yard till we find a rake, and then let's jump on it with both feet. That's
it could conceivably bring Siri back into the race. Right now, she's so far behind. I don't think she's considered a front runner in any respect.
I mean, one of iOS and macOS's biggest and least publicized features is its automation tools. So imagine if they were to hide all of this. Again, they're not going to say it's based on ChatGPT. Oh, here's our large language model. They just simply say, if there's something you would like the Mac to do for you, describe it. You will have a conversation via text or via voice. It will basically show you what it thinks it can do. You can make corrections to it. And then if you really, really like it, it will add, you can upgrade your own operating system to an extent, write your own Mac software. If you can simply have a conversation with Shlomo, and it will do it for you. That's what I'm
You're
hoping to
absolutely
see.
right. You're smart. Don't say it's artificial intelligence. Don't say it's ChatGPT. Just it's a new feature. Yeah.
And they've also got a feature that is voice control, which is an accessibility feature that's really powerful, where you can actually do functions on your Mac without touching the mouse and keyboard, more than just doing an individual Siri request one off. And I think as we've been on air, ChatGPT-4 has been announced, and it does pictures now. So there's that. For me with Apple, though, Apple hired John Giannandrea, a former Google AI expert, several years ago.
Right.
And we haven't heard much from what's come out of that. We certainly haven't seen it. Early on, there were reports that John Giannandrea's team, he wanted Siri to focus less on getting trivia right and knowing facts and expanding its domains, its databases of knowledge, and more focus more on just having a wider, like re-architecting how Siri works in general, and being able to instead of adding new domains every year, instead broaden Siri's capabilities in general, sort of rework how Siri works in general. And we just have not seen that yet. And it seemed, we every year for WWDC, it's kind of a feeling of, oh, is this the year we're going to see the big Siri overhaul that's based on those years of work? And it's not even rumored. The next big thing for Siri is to be able to say, activate Siri by just saying Siri and not saying hey before that. And
that's a bad idea. That's a bad. She already wakes up way too much.
It's not what John Giannandrea was hired to do. And so,
look what I've done. I've cut the number of words in half.
Yeah.
No, that's not.
So separate from ChatGPT and everything, there's got to be something in the works for Siri in general.
I think so. You're right. That's a very good point. He's senior vice president, machine learning and AI strategy. The other thing to remember is Apple now builds into all of its hardware, iPhone and Mac, a neural linguistic processing unit. So they've got AI, and they've been spending quite a few transistors on putting AI into all their devices. They clearly plan to use it, right?
That's their big advantage. And when we say what should they be doing with AI, one of the things that they've already started to do, because we've seen it with some of the visual models, is make an effort to either help people or just do themselves the work of taking some of the, for example, the OpenAI models and putting them on the neural engine, because that neural engine that's in most modern hardware to a certain degree, they keep increasing the cores, they keep increasing the speed. Like, that is their silicon advantage for all of this stuff. So if they can give everybody a leg up to make sure that there's a version that is optimized for Apple Silicon, then all of that ML stuff is going to run so much faster and better on Apple hardware, which is just a huge boost for their hardware. Even if it's not their software that it's running on their silicon, and that's a big deal.
And it's going to be an even bigger deal if they can get compact versions of those large language models that will run completely on device without having to connect to a cloud service. Because if Apple's brand continues to be very, very aggressively, hey, we put privacy first, we put security first, that's something that Google wants to do, everyone else wants to do. But if they say that, no, this is our priority, that we will not put AI on our device if it has to connect to a cloud service and send your data off the device in order to do it, that is something that they could argue very, very strongly. Of course, the question is just going to be, I think that most people, if you give them a cloud-based AI service that transforms how they use this device, they're not going to care if it's on device or not, so long as it's responsive. So yeah, it ties into their hardware scheme, it ties into their software scheme, and obviously ties into their OS scheme.
Yeah, and to Jason's point about they've got the hardware there, they did tune the neural engine to work with Stable Diffusion. So that was something that was very, topical, and they did the work. I think somebody was very interested in doing that, but they were able to optimize the neural engine for Stable Diffusion.
I've been using Whisper to do podcast transcripts, and it runs okay on the CPU cores, but I'm using this excellent C++ version that somebody's done. But somebody at Apple ideally should help in generating the version that uses the neural engine, because if it's flying on my Mac Studio now on the CPU cores, imagine a version that runs power efficiently on an iPhone, so that you can start having like on the fly transcripts of everything anywhere, just using the Whisper AI model, which is amazingly good. Like, you just need to do the work, and I hope Apple does more of that.
Yeah, it's just quickly. It's one of the most transformative features that on my Pixel phone is just the ability that we change. Just the volume slider has a button underneath it that has closed captions on it, and it means that if you push this button, any audio going through the audio system will be closed captioned or even translated. So the idea that if I'm on YouTube and I see a press conference that's happening in France, that there's no captions of this, the ability to that seems like absolute magic, that there are no captions provided with this, but I can have this translated for me automatically on device. Those are the things that they're transformative to how you, not just how you interact with the device, but how you interact with the world through the device, particularly if you're talking to actual people.
Yeah, it goes both ways. It's one of the reasons why you'd want to have a screen on a HomePod, because now with ChatGPT-4, it's multimodal, which means it can handle images and perhaps do the translation you're talking about. This is from The Verge. Apparently it's best at looking at images and then giving you information about it. This is a picture of, can you explain this meme? Sometimes I look at pictures of the Earth from space and I marvel at how beautiful it all is. And ChatGPT-4 was smart. It says this meme is a joke that combines two unrelated things, pictures of the Earth from space and chicken nuggets. Here's one. What's unusual about this image? The unusual thing about this image is that a man is ironing clothes on an ironing board attached to the roof of a moving taxi. Spot on, ChatGPT-4. And this image, what's funny about this image? This image shows a package for a lightning cable adapter with 3 panels. Panel 1, a smartphone with a VGA connector. Oh, it knew it was VGA. That's good. The package for the lightning cable with a picture of a VGA cable on it, and a close-up of the VGA connector with a small lightning connector at the end. Oh, the humor in this image comes from the absurdity of plugging a large, outdated VGA connector into a small, modern smartphone charging port. It is a lightning connector with a VGA plug on it.
We've got our answer for what Apple needs as its killer app.
There's
for
the
its
killer
AR
app.
Glasses. Yeah. For its AR glasses, it is explain the joke to me.
Explain
know your meme.
Know your meme. What the hell's going on?
Oh, haha! I see your joke. Oh man!
But it is. I mean, it's this multimodal stuff which Google's been talking about for a couple of years now. That can be really enabling. There's the Be My Eyes app that you've heard of.
There's a great example, but that's humans.
Yeah. Well, not now, because the new version of it integrates GPT-4.
Oh, no kidding!
And can do a lot of that stuff just with the software and device. So the ability to simply describe have a running, if you just have an earpiece in and it's describing a running commentary of you have your phone in your pocket, just like what was that movie? She. We have a safety pin so the camera is always sticking up a little bit, and it's just always describing things to you that would be significant to you if you're walking through the city. If you have problems with vision, there's a lot of stuff that goes beyond, again, Babylon 5 fan fiction generated automatically. We have to transition past the cute demos and we can look at this fail and figure out what does this technology fundamentally do and how can we use that as a flavor enhancer for a lot of the stuff that we already have or we haven't been able to make work before.
That's a great story. I hadn't heard about it. Be My Eyes is an app that would normally, as a blind person, you'd launch it and you'd say, can somebody volunteer to come online and describe this for me? And human volunteers are required, which means it doesn't always work, right? Now they're going to add ChatGPT-4 so that you don't have to wait for a human volunteer to help you. That's pretty incredible. That's great. I can't wait to see that at work. Congratulations. The Academy Awards were Sunday, and Apple won an Oscar. Okay, it wasn't the Best Picture Oscar. They won for Coda. In fact, I think only Netflix was in that category with Everything Everywhere All at Once. And of course, they won 7 Oscars, so Netflix is very happy.
But that was a theatrical release, right? That was an A24 release.
It's true. It's not really, Netflix. Yeah.
Although I don't think it's even on Netflix right now. It's on Showtime right now.
Netflix got
it's in the
thanked
cable
a lot
window.
on the stage. I got to say, they kept saying thank you, Netflix. So they must have pumped some money into it. Apple did get an Academy Award for Best Animated Short: The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. So they can celebrate a little bit for a Best Animated Short. And it is, in fact, on Apple TV.
You know who's the executive producer of that short? Johnny Ive.
No. Really?
True story. Yeah.
Wow. That's cool. It also got a BAFTA, 4 Annies, and an NAACP Image Award. So very well awarded. That's great. That's great. Finally, I don't know if this will be of interest to you or not, but this is from a website called Reeks. The World Reeks at reekes.net. The story of Sosumi and the Mac startup sound. So this is a clip from a movie. Let's see. I was interviewed. Reeks is a sound designer who did Sosumi. I was interviewed for a documentary about the history of the Macintosh in San Francisco. They gave me free beer too, but sadly my favorite scene was deleted in the final edit. Fortunately, I found this clip on the cutting room floor. So Mr. Reeks is telling us the story of Sosumi, which is, in my opinion, the most annoying Mac sound. But anyway, I won't play it because I don't want to get taken down. But it's great that it's here. Yeah, it's like it's truncated. He also talks about the startup sound. Jim Reeks, who is anybody.
He said something that I thought was really funny about how, their inspiration was actually the chord at the end of A Day in the Life by the Beatles. And once you think about that, you're like, oh, yeah, because it's that big C major chord, and that's what the Mac startup sound is too. So it's absolutely.
Yeah.
And and how much time Steve Jobs spent certifying and writing notes on that one chord, because that's the sort of stuff that he would absolutely get into.
Actually, what's kind of interesting is Jim says he had to sneak it in because the Mac team didn't want to put in another start sound. They said it was done. And so he went over to the people doing the ROM and said, can you sneak this in? Should I? Maybe I should. It's on YouTube. I don't want to steal his thunder. I'll just do this. Well, I guess we don't have sound anymore.
Musical, and that we're going to have to.
That's too late. Too late. I don't know where that's coming from. Oh, there it is. Anyway, watch it. Reeks.net explains the Sosumi sound which is, I think, the oldest Apple sound still on the Apple, right? I mean, that's the original beep sound. And the Mac startup sound where she had to sneak in. Gosh, I really want to play this. See the chilling effect the DMCA has on all of us. Let's, instead of doing that, let's take a break.
There.
Thank you. Was that the original startup?
Yeah, the original little.
It's a sine wave. That's terrible. That's
well,
awful.
that's all they could do back then. But now we've got to the when you watch an Apple TV original, it's a whole orchestra literally playing that same chord. So it goes
so much better. So much better. Yeah. Let's take a little break. When we come back, your picks of the week. Zach, if you want to give us a pick of the week, that'd be great. Not required, but before we do that, I want to tell you about ZocDoc. And actually, Jason has a little sound that he makes for ZocDoc.
ZocDoc!
Thank you. He's the Gilbert Gottfried
to be the
spokes
chicken for ZocDoc.
ZocDoc! What is ZocDoc? Actually, it's an amazingly useful app that you will absolutely want to have. There is nothing worse than going to a doctor's appointment and having, expectations like they're going to pay attention to me. And then the doctor's going, can we get this done? I got a golf date to make. He's just not paying attention. Well, the truth is, everybody has kind of different expectation from a physician or a doctor of any kind. I like to have all the information. I want it all explained to me. There are a lot of people who just say, no, just give me the facts, Jack. What drug do I have to take? And we'll leave it at that. On ZocDoc, you can find the doctor that's right for you. Quality doctors who will listen to you, will focus on you, will give you all the information, or will just give you the bottom line. ZocDoc is the only free app that lets you find and book doctors. But here's the best part: patient reviewed. Plus, you can make sure they take your insurance. They're available when you need them. They treat almost any condition under the sun: dentists, chiropractors, all kinds of practitioners. When you're not feeling your best and you're just trying to hold it together, finding great care shouldn't take up all your energy. That's where ZocDoc comes in. Using their free app, millions of users rely on it. You can find the right doctor that meets your needs, fits your schedule. The worst thing is call a doctor, say, I need an appointment. And they say, well, I'm all full up. I'm not accepting any more patients. Not with ZocDoc. You'll know. You'll know. And you'll know whether they take your insurance, right? You actually narrow the search down. I searching for a gerontologist the other day, take care of one of our older relatives. And you can see exactly what, you limit it by insurance type. Are they accepting new patients? Can they do an appointment soon? All of this. You can book the appointment inside the app within just a few taps and start feeling better. Yeah, with ZocDoc. Plus, those verified patient reviews, those are solid gold because you'll know ahead of time if that doctor is right for you. Go to ZocDoc, ZocDoc.com/MacBreak. You can download the ZocDoc app for free. Then find and book a top-rated doctor today. Many available within 24 hours. Now, I know you're smart. You could just go to the Apple Store and just type in ZocDoc and download it. Would you do me a favor? Because this was how they're measuring the effectiveness of the ad campaign. Go to ZocDoc.com/MacBreak. Then click the link and it'll take you to the store. Actually, they have it up for Android as well. ZocDoc.com/MacBreak. We thank ZocDoc for a great service, which I have used and really works. It was really great to be able to find that very kind of narrow niche specialty and zero right down on it. And for supporting us, and you support us when you use it, ZocDoc.com/MacBreak. Remember, don't go to the App Store. Do that later. Go to the website first, will you? ZocDoc.com/MacBreak. What is this in the Discord? Somebody has posted. Oh, you, Jason Snell.
Yes, I have a whole folder full of Mac startup sounds. So I was
so
able
you can
to
do
get
any
that
of them.
Really.
So that first one is the original, right? With the
right.
Wow.
It's just a simple beep. And then since in the 90s, when Steve Jobs was not there, they had like guitar chords and like they kept on kind of trying to workshop it. And I'm sure that when Steve came back, he was like, what's going on with all these Mac startup sounds? And like had them pick a chime that is basically the chime we have to this day. It used to be like it varied from model to model. They were different ones, but it has been, I think for the last 20 years, it's been the same chime.
And I can't believe we've gotten this far without anybody saying where the name Susumi came from.
So
Oh, yeah.
sue me, right?
Yeah, because the Beatles were suing Apple at the time. Apple Records had the license for the name Apple, and the Beatles basically said you can't do audio things. You have to only do computer things, because this was in an era where those were different. And so Sue Me was one of those like, yeah, well, we're doing some audio things. Take that. Ironically, now I believe Apple bought like all the rights to the use of the word Apple and licensed
it's okay
it back
now. There's
to
no
the Beatles.
no lawsuits, right?
But at the time, the Beatles were like, stay out of our playset, which is music.
Apple
And
had to
Apple was
resolve
like,
that
oh, okay,
before
okay,
they
sorry,
could do iTunes, right? They had to solve that.
Yeah.
conundrum.
I mean, ultimately, the
Wasn't it-
music and computers merged together to the point where it was
Right.
going to be a problem one way or
wasn't,
another.
wasn't it the Apple CD when they had their standalone CD player?
Probably
It's possible.
Yeah. Here,
I
I'm
mean,
going to play it.
yeah,
I'm going
could
to
be
take
wrong.
a chance. Here's Jim Reeks explaining how he got the startup sound in the Mac.
and just sort of owned audio.
Now,
This is
I guess most famous, even though not a lot of people know this, but you're most famous for something that every Mac user hears pretty much every day, which is the startup chime.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? How did you, why is it the way it sounds today?
Yeah. Well, the original sound, if you can remember, on the original Mac 128 was actually kind of a cool sound. I actually like that
well.
one. It's
let's hear it.
I don't know what's the word. It's just actually it's a really
a
I don't know
sine
if quaint
tone.
is the wrong word, but it's a good sound like the original 128 Mac sound. And then when the Mac 2 came out, the color Mac with slots, and it was just this big ass machine. There was an Apple sound chip developed, and it had programmed what I thought was actually a horrible sound. If you're a musician, you know about an interval called
It's a tritone. Oh, we're not going to have time for his whole explanation, but it's really good. I recommend it. But he says that sound. He says any musician hates that because it's a tritone, which is essentially evil.
Tristan Chord or GTFO.
It was a dark time.
It was a dark
time.
Dark time. Great explanation about it. I guess they're in a coffee shop. It's from One More Thing, which I guess was a podcast or an interview show. Let's do our picks of the week. Mr. Jason Snell, why don't you kick it off for us?
I'm going to talk about something fun. It's Marvel Snap, which is a game that came out late last year, which I love. And what I'm going to tell you is it has all the trappings of being one of these apps that you install, and it's a game, and it's gonna get money out of you. And the only way to play it is to give them more money and buy more gems.
Damn it.
And what I'll tell you is I played it for like 3 months now, a lot, and haven't given them a cent. And the fact is you can give them money for stuff, but it doesn't really affect the gameplay. It is also the most gentle, as somebody who's never actually played one of these collectible card games like Magic or Hearthstone. I have never played any of them. It is very gentle with you. It teaches you how to play. And then as you level up, you get more cards and you can change your strategy. But it does auto matchmaking. It's actually so gentle that I don't think you can detect when you go from playing against AI players to playing against real people on the internet. It's actually one of the great mysteries. Sometimes I play against an opponent and they make bizarre decisions, and I can't decide whether that's the AI being weird or whether it's just a weird person on the internet making bad decisions. But it's fun and it's short. Every game is 6 turns, so you play it in a couple of minutes, and then you can either play again or you can move on. And I really like how snackable it is in that way. All the cards are Marvel characters, hence the name Marvel Snap. And it's a lot of fun, free to play on the iPhone and iPad, and even on the Mac with Catalyst. And so, or on Apple Silicon, actually. I think it's just a straight up Apple Silicon translation of iPad. But it's a lot of fun and easy to play. So if you're somebody who is looking for a new game on your iPhone or iPad to waste time on, I would say give it a try. You may have given it a pass because it looks like it's going to be a sleazy game that just tries to rip you off. And it's not. You can play it without paying a cent and still get the full gameplay.
It's not a sleazy game and it doesn't rip you off, says Jason Snell.
Yeah, it's a big. I mean, that's saying
sixcolors.com.
something.
Yeah,
that's saying something
nowadays. Yeah. Andy Anako, pick of the week.
A couple of picks for window managers. I'm a big fan of window managers. I wish that as complicated as like Linux is, I love the fact that no matter how you like your windows arranged, it can help you do that and help you do that on the fly. As I get bigger monitors, I have enough space that I can tile my windows, and my workspace is usually turns into tiled windows. I've got the document that I'm actually writing. I've got another tiled pinned window that has research on it. Another tiled pinned window that's for Slack, because I'm talking to people while I'm going. Overlapping windows are a hindrance to my creativity. So there are two window managers that you can add on that really add things to the next level. Now, the cheap one is Rectangle that we all know and love. It's open source. This is the simple one that gives you sort of like Windows like snapping, where if you drag a window to the side of the screen, it just simply snaps to a size that's exactly half the size of the screen, whether it's top or bottom. And there are ways you can customize it. It's great because it's free, Rectangle app. You can get the pro version that adds a whole bunch of shortcuts, a whole bunch of different conditionals, saving how you set up your workspace. And I bought it because I was ashamed to find out much later on that there is people who are making like a Rectangle Pro, formerly Hookshot, according to the rectangleapp.com site. But I desperately wanted to give them $10, so I gave them $10. But recently I also found out about something that is an interesting twist. I don't use it myself, but I think a lot of people would want to know about it. It's called Swish from Highly Opinionated. This is $16 with a free trial. What's unique about this one is that it integrates really well with your trackpad or your multi-touch Magic Pad, so that if you don't necessarily want to use keyboard shortcuts or mouse drags, just simply like moving your mouse into the title bar of the menu and dragging down twice will basically put it where you want it to go, or close a window or move it. And it gives you much more muscular movements like that. It's not the way that I deal with Windows. I'm very much a mouse and pointer sort of person. I don't really, for some reason, multi-touch on desktop has never really gotten past squeeze and stretch for me. But it's a good alternative for those of you who are really manipulating a lot of windows all the time. If you're in the middle of a meeting, for instance, and you suddenly don't realize that you needed this thing, but you do, but now it's covering up this other window, I could see where that would be a very big thing. My choice is Rectangle Pro, but even the basic rectangleapp.com free open source one will do you just fine. I couldn't do without a Windows manager, because otherwise I would do nothing but okay now resize and okay, oh, now it's overlapping. So it's one of my go-to apps.
I use Rectangle, but this Swish actually looks great, so I'm going to take a look, because I do use
it. I tried it again. It's not for me, but it was very natural to use. I couldn't get it to screw. I was as someone who doesn't use multi-touch, it was very easy to learn. It wasn't screwing up. It was doing exactly what it told me it would do. And so I think it was a very nicely crafted piece of software. And $16, and you own it for life. And I like the ability to give a developer money, saying, I love the thing you created. Here is some money. There is, whether it's a comic book artist at a Comic-Con or whatever, there is no more fundamental thing than saying, I like what you do. Here is some money to further validate this compliment.
I agree.
Have a coffee.
It's on SetApp, but I feel like I don't know if people who are on SetApp get the full benefit of SetApp, so I think maybe just buy it. You can try it. You can just buy it, I guess. Right?
If you want. Well, you can just download it and install it as a regular app and register it for $16. You don't have to subscribe to SetApp in order to do it. But I know
SetApp has like 200 apps, and I think Mike is a SetApp fan, I think. So I just mentioned that if you already have SetApp, you already have Swish.
They do mention in the docs that there's a reason why it's not in the App Store, and it's because it needs permissions that the App Store will not grant it. Yeah. Because again, it's not designed to simply play. It's designed to fix something that Apple doesn't think that needs fixing. That the thing is perfect.
It ain't broke
in and of itself, right? So
Swish, swish, which is a wonderful sound. Highlyopinionated.co. Zach, did you want to give us a pick of the week? Something you like, you're using, you're fond of? It could be a TV show, a book, or an app. Anything you want.
All right, Andy took mine. No, I'm kidding. I have
that happens all the time. Don't.
I have a pick listicle.
Oh,
so
yes.
Prepare.
Yes, I'm ready.
First off, The Cure is going to go on tour in North America for the first time in 7 years. First stop is in New Orleans. I'll be there. So there's that.
You're actually going to New Orleans to see The Cure?
Yeah, it's an hour drive from me.
Oh,
And I
where
love
are
The
you?
Cure, so-
I should have asked. I didn't know.
Sure. Biloxi, Mississippi.
Biloxi. Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Mhm.
Oh, so
Yep.
an hour away, you can see The Cure. Go.
That's right. It's the first stop on the tour.
Yeah.
First tour in 7 years.
Oh, how
So
fun.
it's
How
awesome.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super excited about that. I recommend adopting dogs. I adopted a dog 2 weeks ago. She's 4. Her name is Nova. She is a Havanese dog.
Ooh, they're
Um,
big. Aren't those big?
This is a small dog. I can
Oh.
only have a small dog at
Okay.
this house. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's my first time having a small dog, and it's really cool. She goes everywhere with me. So I'm one of those people.
Aw.
Yep. Yep.
Jealous. Where's your Havanese?
Other room.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Yeah. TV show Fleischman is in Trouble on FX. I
Yes.
enjoyed that.
I wanted to know if that's good. Is it good?
I loved it. I'm a single dad. I'm divorced, and it hits all the notes for me. So
It's about a guy who wakes up and he's divorced all of a sudden, and his wife has disappeared.
His wife has disappeared. He's got his 2 kids and boy and girl. And man, do I
Yeah.
know that one. So I found that to be very relating, not just for that specific situation, but also just sort of a career retrospective. Are you where you want to be in life?
Were you married to Claire Danes too?
I don't like to admit it, but yes.
I watched it because I'm a big fan of Lizzie Kaplan, and she's wonderful
Yeah.
in it, and Claire Danes is wonderful in it. But I haven't recommended it because I think it's a little weird, but I think
Yeah.
it's good. I really liked it a lot. Good. I'm glad you
Yeah.
recommended it. Yeah. Yeah.
I was surprised by it. It was one of those where I had to watch every week the day it came out.
Yeah.
And then
it's
lastly,
on Hulu. It was an FX show.
That's
but You
right.
can see it on
Mhm.
Hulu now. Yeah.
Yep. And then lastly, Tiny Crosswords Plus on Apple Arcade on the iPhone. I've replaced social media apps with this, and I've kind of thought about it. And I think the reason I like this crossword app in particular is because everything's bite sized. It's a way to make me do something with my phone when I'm bored, or don't want to be doing nothing in line and grocery store or something. And then I think especially it makes me feel smart for figuring out very easy crossword puzzles, which I think is something I was getting from social media too. I looked at dumb takes and I felt smart from that. So it's a
I
good
think it's
replacement.
hysterical that you think a crossword puzzle replaces social media, but okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, all satisfaction of finishing the People magazine crossword inning. I feel that.
Or is it as easy as the TV Guide crossword puzzle? Because that's really
Right.
I know
Oh, and one more.
we miss it. Yes, one more. Wow. And I
Yeah,
felt
last
guilty
one.
asking you for a pick. Okay. What
No.
else?
Last one is if you enjoy Apple tech podcasts and you really like to have an American host and a UK host, and if you like that kind of thing, about an hour and a half long, Jason does one. I do one as well. So 9 to 5 Mac Happy Hour. I have to mention it here. So I've been doing
of
it
course.
for
That US UK
yeah.
magic just can't be. You can't beat it. You
Who
can't-
is
if-
your
if we-
co-host on the happy hour?
Benjamin Mayo. Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. Never met him, but we've been having this 2-hour call every
You're kidding.
week
You're kidding.
for almost 10 years now. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. If we ever find an Italian, then we're gonna do a whole connected alternative universe thing. So yeah.
dangerous. Dangerous. Watch out.
Yeah.
We have a lot of Brazilians at 9 to 5 Mac, but yeah,
Unfortunately, the 9 to
Italians.
5 Mac cert problem is hitting the website right now for the happy hour, but
Yes.
it isn't a security
but
issue.
non-
It's just an expired
It is on
cert.
Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't get it from 9 to 5 Mac. Just go to your favorite podcast app and search for 9 to 5 Mac Happy Hour.
That's
I
right.
like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Hey, I really appreciate you coming on, Zach. It's great to have you.
Real pleasure. I would come back anytime.
Well, then you will. Then you will. I think Alex Lindsay will be back next week, but if he's not, I'm going to be giving you a ring. How about that?
All right.
And I just downloaded Tiny Crossword Plus, by the way, because I love
Good luck.
I
It's
love
easy.
that. I love easy crosswords.
Every 4 or 5 puzzles I throw in, not a harder one, but one that's got many more squares, and that feels like the challenge.
Oh, wait a minute. No, so here's the first clue in the first puzzle. Number that comes before 2.
Exactly.
That sounds a little condescending, actually.
Yeah. A lot of clues are rhymes with this word or things like that.
Okay,
That's
that was tough. I think I'm ready
But
for it. That's good.
But I'm on level like 260. You're on level 1. So
yeah, no, it gets harder, does it? Okay.
No, it doesn't.
A lot of two-syllable words.
Doesn't get harder.
But
it does go on.
This is fun. I like it. Wise bird that gives a hoot. Owl. Christmas carol. Anagram of Leon. Noel. Another term for therefore. Ergo. See, it's getting harder. We got Latin now. Man's best friend. Havanese doesn't fit. Well, I don't know. I'll have to think about that one. Thank you, Zach Hall. Appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Andy Ihnatko. When are you going to be on GBH next?
Next Friday, 12:30 at the Boston Public Library Studios. So you can come in and buy yourself a cup of coffee, buy yourself a cookie, and watch me pretend that I'm not reading off of notes, even though I'm totally reading off of notes.
Thank you, Andy. Ihnatko.com, WGBH Boston, and of course, Jason Snell, sixcolors.com/Jason. Plug something, one of your many endeavors.
Well, since Zach got me in the mood, just check out the Upgrade podcast. We have a good time. I sang some. I discovered that all of the classical music I could think of off the top of my head this week was Beethoven. I have no idea why it's Beethoven, but it's Beethoven, and I unearthed a 40-year-old memory this week on Upgrade, which was that my piano teacher used to give us those little plastic figurines.
That's great.
With various composers on them. I hadn't thought about that in decades. I posted it to Facebook, and I immediately got somebody I went to elementary school with who said, I had those too, and I also haven't thought about it for 40 years. So, you know,
did you save any of them, Jason?
We have fun.
We
have fun. I did not save. I have the piano, but I don't have any of the plastic figurines. I'm sorry. Sorry, Chopin. You're in a landfill somewhere.
Upgrade with Mike Hurley. That's the Brit on this one. Relay.fm/upgrade. Episode 450, Funko Classicals.
Absolutely.
I love it. And I thank you all for being here. Have a great time at the Cure concert, Zach. That's awesome. Have fun.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And thank you all for being here. We do Mac Break Weekly Tuesdays, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We are now in summertime once again. And that means it's 1800 UTC. UTC doesn't change. We do. 1800 UTC. Reason I mention when we do it is because you can watch us do it live if you want to get the freshest version at live.twit.tv. Chat with us live at irc.twit.tv. Of course, Club Twit members get to chat inside the Discord, which is always a lot of fun. Join us there. After the fact, easy to get copies of the show. Simply go to twit.tv/MBW. But you'll also be glad to know there's a YouTube channel dedicated to Mac Break Weekly, so you can go there and watch. Good way to share clips if that's what you'd like to do. But probably the best thing to do is subscribe in your favorite podcast player. That way you'll get it automatically as soon as it is available. Yes, we've been doing this show a damn long time. So you may not see us at the top of the charts, but we're here 861 episodes later. Thank you for joining us. And now, for the 861st time, I'm going to tell you to get back to work because break time is over. Bye-bye.
Oh, hey, that's a really nice iPhone you have there. You totally picked the right color. Hey, since you do use an iPhone and maybe use an iPad or an Apple Watch or an Apple TV, well, you should check out iOS Today. It's a show that I, Micah Sargent, and my co-host Rosemary Orchard host every Tuesday right here on the Twit Network. It covers all things iOS, tvOS, HomePodOS, watchOS, iPadOS. It's all the OSs that Apple has on offer, and we love to give you tips and tricks about making the most of those devices, checking out great apps and services, and answering your tech questions. I hope you check it out.